stream plates and all the other streaming together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so the only one that I can do is me or my kid. Anytime you want to stream
Give it some trash in there? Okay.
People showing up. At first I was like,
our house lights are better than they used to be. They're still not as bright as we would love them better. We got the stage lights. We got new stage lights. A year ago? Yeah. But, yeah, the house lights, I We're hard to do that. I don't
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Is this a good mood for talking about money, or is it going to be brighter? I don't know.
It's bright as they go.
Oh, okay.
The house lights,
There you go.
they're up all the way.
That's as good as we got.
That's good, guys. Well, what am I
And they're
saying?
all working. Our guy went through and got them all working. They're all on.
So you know, Danny.
It used to be worse.
No, it's beautiful.
It used to be worse.
So Danny, so don't tell Danny what it is. He called me up and said, this place is wonderful. I got some budget ideas. Some budget requests. So this budget side.
We're getting there. I mean, we got some help. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
The lights, we got half of them. I think both of them were 3.3. We put in half of it and 3.3. So we used it like crazy.
Oh yeah, no, and
Say with the sound system.
it really sends them out too.
The super is if we had a really terrible sound system. 2 years ago, it's so much better.
Very
We're not always the best at it, trust me.
no,
I hope we get you guys in here.
Danny's being spoiled. That's what it is.
It is a nice community asset.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to pull this together so quick. Totally
Nice
appreciate
community asset.
it. It is.
Hey, maybe you need to get this guy involved. You know what we're doing? Did Sean tell you what we're bringing in esports? Our high school, we're going to be, I think we'll be the first school in the Concord corridor to have an esports team. We're just, the last 3 or 4 weeks, we just really I got some donations and our high school principal got a grant, so we got a few bucks. We have a whole segment of kids that don't play football, they don't play basketball, they're not in JROTC, they're not FFA, they're not in band, but they can. So we're going to try to connect to those guys. I told you, I saw it on ESPN the other day. I got esports on ESPN. And Thursday night, phone okay, we need the guy from the company that's working with AIA. Okay, we have a meeting with him on Thursday at 4:05 and perfect plan. So we're rolling along here. Perfect. We should hopefully start getting, when's the spring season start? Like February or something? February. So we're hoping that would be really cool. We're hoping by that time we'll have we got the room working out. What room are you doing? Right now we're going to be for a room upstairs. The high school. Oh, okay. All right. Got the room cleared out. All right. Well, I have that. One of the things you guys want to push. Tell them, you know how much their school tax is. Tell your kids that their parents can help fund now you're a club. Now you're a club. So, yeah. Think about $200 to $400. So, not at all. No. You know, a lot of people stand on don't do it because you have to write a check. A lot of people don't have the money to check we can get the people to pay. It doesn't cost you as you get back when you get back your income tax bill. But I guys don't understand this. We're trying to place a tax. You didn't get it, but I said before you file your tax, come up with the other check, write a check, save your money, write a check to school, and then you get it back. So it doesn't cost you. You can get it for your esports club. It doesn't cost you.
This meeting is a chance for you to voice your concerns and for us to answer any questions that you may have. I know that tensions are high and things are very uncertain right now, but I would like this to be a positive meeting, and I stress positive, with conversation on how we can all work together to make it through these difficult times. I want to reiterate that there be no personal attacks on any individuals or members of the staff. Our goal tonight is to move forward successfully into the future. COVID has affected all of us in one way or another. This has been a learning experience for us all, and I know that that as a community, we will pull through this and be stronger than ever. We appreciate our businesses in Globe and know how important you are to the city. We are here to support you to the best of our ability. Please keep in mind that the city is bound by Governor Ducey's orders and have limited or no control over reopening and capacity requirements. At this time, I'd like to introduce the city council members that are here. Our Mayor, Al Gameros, Councilwoman Charlene Giles, Councilman Freddie Rios, Councilman Mike Pastor, and Councilman Fernando Shipley. Along with the FAQ sheets that we have available for you, the city staff will be available to answer any specific questions. Paul Jepson, our city manager, will be available for general questions on the process and the city budgeting. Linda Adanetto, she can assist with process and current funding options available to businesses at this time. And then Danny Trammell, he's doing all our IT work and doing this on YouTube. And then we have Shelley Salazar's here as well to help with questions via email or the council phone number. As always, I encourage you to reach out to any of the members of the council or the city manager at any time with questions or concerns. You can get all the contact information, numbers, email address on the city webpage. Did you want to add something?
Oh, I'm just glad everybody came, and this has been, the rules have changed from the day they started, the rules have changed, and we've tried to keep up. There are definitely those of us on council that have asked, what can we do for the businesses? How do we help the businesses? And we're all in the learning curve together. So let us start figuring it out. And I think people that would like to speak, please come up and come to the podium and give us your thoughts and your input. And I'm thinking 3 to 5 minutes. You think? Yeah,
just like a city council meeting. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Paul. He has a few opening comments.
Just some housekeeping here. Thank you very much. The meeting structure here is a town hall, and this is a community town hall. It is not a formal council meeting. There's no formal agenda. We're not keeping minutes. This is just a community outreach. Because of that, the council, and we do have a quorum of council, or majority of council here, and so the city's here to listen. Council members are here to listen. Council members are free to have conversations back and forth with any of the residents. What we have to avoid is council member to council member conversations, because then you get into the topic that's going to be on the agenda in a week on December 8th, and so that's where they'll have their conversation between themselves. But tonight is to hear from you and to get feedback from you and have that back and forth with the members of the public. So you won't see a lot of debate, a lot of determining action, but we're here to listen. And then just real participation. We got wonderful 40-plus people here. And so you're all welcome as we go into this and get past the openings. I think there'll be a lot of room for questions, and we welcome the questions. You can come down to the podium. We have Danny streaming this live on YouTube. It's on the channel, the same channel that we do council meetings. It's our city YouTube channel, and you can get there off the city website. Just watch here. Also, if the same mechanisms for communicating if you're out watching, you can email council@globeaz.gov, and Shelley will pick up the email, and when the time is right, we'll include those in there. If you want to, we don't know how exactly it's going to work, but if you want to get on the phone and we can get Shelley here by the mic and pipe you in if you have a direct question, I would recommend you text Shelley at 928-200-0154. Let her know that you'd like to speak, and at an appropriate time she'll come up and get you on the phone, and we'll call you up and let you participate that way. So we have a number of ways to watch this. It's being broadcast live, and it'll be up there for the, for those who missed it to catch up later. So other than that, Vice Mayor, and did the mayor want comments before? I was going to go history when you're ready, but.
Yeah, I just want to welcome everybody here. Also, I'm here to support Vice Mayor Stapleton in putting on this town hall. I appreciate that very much. We're here to maybe get some more information, learn a little more of what the CARES Act is about. I know we've heard a lot of your concerns in the community and business people. I think Vice Mayor said it well. This has affected us all, even as a city. So thank you for coming, and hopefully we get some good input from the business community. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so Paul, we want to go into the history of the CARES Act?
Yes. So a couple of clarifications just to as to what is what. There are two different programs we're talking about. The primary program is what they call it's capital CARES, the CARES Act, and that is the federal $2.2 trillion act that the federal government passed. They distributed money for general support of people during the pandemic. Most of that turned into that direct subsidies or loans that you could apply for, the PPE, I think it's PPE applications, and if I get I'm kind of off the cuff on the notes. You have that was funded by direct federal CARES Act. On May 27th of 2000, Governor Ducey took some of the CARES Act money the state of Arizona got and determined to distribute it to the municipalities who didn't get federal CARES Act. There were 5 entities in Arizona who got federal CARES money. That was City of Phoenix, City of Tucson, City of Mesa, Maricopa County, and Pima County. Everybody else was left out. Now you'll see a lot of references to municipalities getting CARES money, and that is limited in Arizona to those 3 cities, Phoenix, Tucson, Mesa. To fix that, the governor took $441 million, divided up by population, and distributed that. And there's a list up there that we're passing out that has the numbers. We got about 843,000 allotted to us if we qualified for the grant. So when we heard about this, we immediately got on it because, like other programs, if it comes, it can go. We didn't want to be left behind. So we immediately applied in May and between May and June for this money. We applied for the money in the way that we knew we could get the money, which is to reimburse public safety regular time salaries. We had $843,000 that we could use for reimbursing salaries, and that is what we did. That was cleanest, easiest, fastest way to go. It was a primary way that everyone was collecting the CARES money, the Arizona CARES money. Now what this did was we got that money prior to the 2021-22 budget, and we paid that money. So that money that we collected has been spent. The actual CARES funds have been used to pay salaries. The money that we're talking about now is money that was freed up because of our AZ CARES contribution, the money we pulled in for that. Now, we're right at budget cycle and this hit, and some people didn't even apply until after the budget cycle. We were told, don't wait, do it now, so we applied before, and then we had to budget that money. In order to spend any money that we have to budget it. Even grant money we haven't gotten yet, we have to budget. So we budgeted and took that $843,000 and aligned it into public safety and public health. Primarily for the city, that was police, fire, and then money for plexiglass and some improvements for the health of our staff. And we built that into the CIP budget, and that was passed about July 17th. It was presented twice to council, I think on June 6th, the first meeting in June, second meeting in June, and then the first meeting in July, it was finally adopted as part of our budget, and that's where we were there. In the initial conversations with the people in the governor's office and the people at League of Cities. League of Cities is a group that serves all cities and gives legal advice, lobbying, legislative advice, things like that. There was an idea that we could use that money at that time to help out direct subsidies to businesses. But that we know, and everybody knew, and we were all saying, it violates the gift clause. The gift clause says that you can't take public money and give it to benefit a private individual, okay? And so this is what we would be doing, is picking out private individuals and giving that, even though there's a need and everybody sees a need, and the governor said, hey, I'm freeing this money up so you can do this wonderful thing, but the governor can't erase the Constitution. Arizona Constitution is not a bill, it's not a law that was passed. It is baked into the Constitution since the start of the state. We were looking for ways to make that. I know other cities spent a lot of time, who had attorneys and a lot of effort to try to find ways to do that. We played it safe and went with, let's do public safety, because we had a need. We're preparing for the next pandemic. We worked hard to get our public safety, our police and fire, maintain fire and improve police. And here we had a chance to give back to some of the efforts that they needed to get ready for the next whatever is around the corner. It's 2020, who knows? And that was where that went. We didn't have many conversations or a conversation internally about this, but it was so dicey, and we were fearful of the Goldwater Institute coming around and doing the lawsuits. We let it rest. And so that was the decision. That was what we brought forward to council, and that is what council approved, voted on, and this is where we are now with the money being allocated in the CIP to these investments in public safety and public health. Much of that money, because of the COVID, because we didn't know it was around the corner, we haven't spent much of that money, but it is there, and we are watching our regular. We actually did a double budget. We have what we call a regular budget and a COVID budget. COVID budget, we knocked down as much as we could because we didn't know what our revenues are going to be. We still aren't sure what our revenue is going to be. We keep thinking it's going to end, and so we're playing it very safe, and making sure that we don't get caught, because we have to provide services. We have to take care of everyone. We have to make sure that they have fire, police, water, wastewater, transportation, and we don't want to have to take any action that's going to impact those core services. So I'll leave it at that. And Vice Mayor. Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Do we want to go ahead and start inviting participants up to the podium? Will be the next, so we can hear your concerns one by one. So anybody would like to come on up, now's your chance to go ahead and address us as well.
And Vice Mayor, while everybody's getting ready to come down here, the only history I did do is where we're at is actually council's looking at putting together a program that will distribute money to small businesses that demonstrate a need for a limited amount. We're looking at about, right now, 2,500 max, 1,000 minimum to those that qualify. The way we can do that and get past the gift is we use a third-party, independent nonprofit to determine the need, and whoever applies is going to get the money. We can't pick and choose. And so the way we get around the gift clause is take a class of people, say if you meet these criteria and you meet this need, then you will get this much money. And we're not picking and choosing winners and losers. We're making a definition of who is who, of what your need is, and that's how we feel we can do this. Our attorney is still skeptical, to say the least, but many other cities since now have done it that way, and if we do it the same way the other cities do it, we're going to be distributing, we're not as big a city. If they haven't sued the bigger cities, we figure they're going to probably leave us alone. So, and on the 8th, we'll be talking more about this, but we didn't act on it the last meeting because we wanted your feedback, and so that is our chance now to hear from you and get your feedback. Okay. I forgot that part.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Charlene, you have a comment?
So I would just like everyone here to know that there has been no dollar amount decided on. That is something we are discussing. That is something we want everybody here's input in, and that the council has made no fixed amount. Several of us have thrown out some numbers, and we'll just see where it goes.
Okay. Thank you, Charlene. Do I need to read the goals, Paul?
What's that?
You want me to go ahead and read the goals?
No, I would.
Gonna go ahead and
Let's see if we have any comments first.
That's what I thought. So let's go ahead and have Sarah first.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Sarah Bernstein. I have a question for you. In some of the paperwork that I've read, you have an activity code 8000 that was enacted in February of this year. Looks like it was to monitor costs that the city would incur due to this pandemic. Could somebody please elaborate on that for me, when it started, who oversees it, money's used to fund it, how that helped you get your arms around this? Thank you.
And I should probably sit somewhere else so we can go back and forth. Make it here. And no, I'm going to sit over here.
That mic, you just turn that mic on. It's off right now. Danny said it should be fun, so try it.
So I think the question is, what do we're about 250,000 in additional costs due to the pandemic, and that we measured. Before we got this, before we got the CARES money, there was always an idea that there was going to be, we were going to have to justify the money. And so we started right off the bat keeping track of overtime, keeping track of costs and different things. We have a lot of sick leave. We have a policy at the city: if you are out due to COVID, either you have it or you're quarantined or you're exposed and you need to stay home and not come in for whatever reason. If it's COVID related, we pick up the overtime, the sick leave. And that continues on. Those costs continue, but we documented about $250,000 in costs that we've incurred. Is that the question?
Because she's not addressing the microphone. If you look, the microphone's in front of the mic, and they're sitting right next to each other without masks on. I feel apparently. There are city leaders. They're supposed to lead by example. That's all I gotta say on that.
What?
Activity 8,000, is that what you said?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think once we realized that yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we had COVID costs. We knew we were going to attract money. I don't remember the decision happening, but I knew that we need to keep track. I don't know that we knew that there was going to be a payment or anything like that. I think Jeannie just said, if we're going to have these costs, if we're going to be doing special things for COVID, then we ought to track a line. She's like that. She likes to keep everything separated. So I'm sure Jeannie's listening. Jeannie, if you want to text me the history of when you created that 8,000 line, and so let me get a text from her, and I'm sure that I can pass along her answer. Yes. No. Yeah. No, we didn't. We absorbed those costs. Yes. But we tracked them so in case we had to justify the submissions. Let me see if she's texted me yet.
Paul, on the tracking, I don't know, in February, I don't know when those cases started. I know that the city had early on positive cases in the city. Was it that early that when it was that we did start getting cases? I know the city formed a COVID team that met on a regular basis or daily basis. Is that when it began, or was it after that?
I know when we first. Do you have?
Oh,
There we go.
Okay. Oh, Gary's going to have the answer for that.
So when we initiated our command team, our COVID command team, one of the discussions that went on there was because as things were evolving, we felt there was probably likely to be some federal intervention, in whether it be in terms of dollars, whether it be in terms of whatever that would ultimately come out as a result. One of the things you do with whenever you create a command organization, part of what goes along with that is the documentation process. So in discussing and going through, that was one of the things that came about as part of that process was we began the documentation process. And for the financial portion of that, in Paul's discussion with Jeannie and we, if I remember correctly, early on we brought Jeannie into a couple of the COVID team meetings, and we had a discussion about how we could start tracking dollars that the city expended in this, in the event that there were different federal programs that came out. There's numerous federal programs that have come out for different things. Some of that is very difficult to obtain based on the requirements, but we began the documentation process. That documentation process continues today. If I expend money on COVID supplies, I document that to those lines so that we can track it. And ultimately, if there's any more declarations down the road, we have the documentation to go back and support expenses that we've expended that FEMA may be able to reimburse as part of disaster assistance. I don't know if that.
Chief,
that's
just
pretty
a
much
question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just to follow up on that too, Chief, this is a normal process. This isn't the first time that FEMA documentation has taken place. I mean, any disaster, whether you have a flood, a fire, a hurricane, we've done it numerous times in the past with local fires where we start documenting our hours and our times because there could be some FEMA documentation, but that has to be very precise. So this isn't a new thing that occurred I think with the pandemic. It's just something that we were aware we have done in the past and wanted to make sure. And I think the COVID team and their command team wanted to make sure that they had the proper documentation if there was funds to come available.
And this is what Jeannie responded. She says, the activity code was established by me to track COVID costs. She says, I created it only to track costs. There's no plan in place to reimburse those costs. We absorb those costs. It may be useful in applying for other grants. And like the mayor says, we do that when we're separating overtime for regular because of shortages in people and overtime for special events, so we can we can understand why we incurred additional costs. So it's good financial planning to understand, you know, if your overtime costs are up, why. And so I believe that's why Jeannie, I texted her and said, why February? And it's all a blur to me, but let's see what she replies. She said that's when the COVID stuff started. That's when you started using your COVID team. Okay. So that's when she did February.
So does that answer your question, Sarah? Okay, thank you. Who wants to come up next?
It's not as scary as it seems. It's all good.
My name is Maritza Hurtado. I am a lifetime resident. I am a hairdresser at Dominion Cutting Co. I operate upstairs for Dominion Cutting Co. for her, providing women's services. I just want to come up here and give a little bit of education on how I operate my business. I am a sole proprietor. I do have a tax ID number that I operate under, but I do not have a business license. I don't operate off of my own business license, but I was still greatly affected by the pandemic. I also had to close down for a month. I'm not someone who sits and waits around for money, but I do believe that I deserve some of this money. Whenever I was shut down, I continued to service my community, and I got a job at Safeway. I didn't go stand in the unemployment line like many others did, and I'm just wishing that there was more outreach, because there's a lot more people that I think should be sitting here.
Where's that?
We're sorry. We're not.
Yeah, he's adjusting it, sorry.
Oh, Danny's doing, okay.
And I know that I would be here, and there'd be a lot more of me here if we were informed on this money and this opportunity to come and speak and let you know how much I really are in need of this. Because if this happens again and I do get shut down, I don't know that I would be able to open back up and continue to provide for the community like I love to do. So I just want that taken into consideration when coming up with the planning, because I know that was one of the stipulations, that you had to work under a business license in order to qualify. So I'm looking at that to be looked at, and to see if there's something or some other option of being able to qualify. If there's some kind of proof that I can give showing that, you know, I rely on the community being able to come and get my services and provide for my family.
So you do have a federal tax ID number, though, that you use on your income tax return?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. But if he's fine with it, then the money would go to him, not go to me, and
Go to the mic.
If it's under his business license, then most likely they would give the money to him and not just to me. Yeah. But the thing is I'm not the only one that operates this way. There's like 12 salons in this town. That means that in those 12 salons, there's 4 to 6 employees that operate that like I do. And that's 4 to 6 families. So it didn't happen because the word didn't get out as fastly, and properly educating on them on that they would be able to come here and speak to say like, hey, because I know that they need the money. I wasn't the only hairdresser that had to go and get another job when this happened. So that's why I'm saying overall as a whole.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Paul, do you have any comments for Moody, or?
I do know that that's one of the unique situations where we have, with the criteria, we have one application for one building, one business license, and we believe there's a way we can put together something where we honor the need to share it within the independent contractors within that. So we're definitely aware of the problem, and we hope to fully address that to council on the 8th as to how that would be handled. But our intention is to, right now, and the way it's been working in that Arizona First has been doing it in other communities, is giving the one award to the primary business license holder with the requirement or the understanding that that will be shared among the independent contractors. And we have to be careful that we don't vary too far from what First Things First has done in other.
They weren't very careful when they shut us down, and they broke a constitutional law when they shut us down. So I don't want to keep hearing about how this is going to be a problem and a problem and a problem. If other cities have figured it out, then let everyone get up here and talk. And we don't want to hear excuses anymore. So the explanation is unneeded.
Mayor, you have a comment?
Yeah, I talked to several businesses also during these last couple of weeks, and I did talk to a local salon here in town, and I told them the possibility, hey, there's a possibility you could get $2,500 reimbursement for your rent, your lease for during the time you're shut down. And that individual was very appreciative, because what they would do, they told me they would not charge because she understood that individual contractors could not put in for that money. But what she would do with the money, if she could get 2 months' salary, she would not charge her contractors for 2 months. She would take that money and tell them December and January, there's no payment back to me. So what she told me, that it not only affects this business, but affects 6 families within my business. So she was going to put it back into the business and not allow and then that way they didn't have to pay their monthly, whatever rent it is that they had to pay for a seat. That was one of the salons in this area. That's what they would do with their money.
Johnny, would you like to come up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Talk real close to that mic.
I don't know, is it close or far?
I think farther, because that's the feedback.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys for being here, listening to our needs as a community. I have the opportunity to chat with Al quite often, and he and I, we stay in the loop. So exactly what you're saying, Al, that conversation wasn't between you and I, but that's a great explanation, because there still is a lot of families. We've grown since then, but I believe at that time it was 3 of us. And thankfully for my wife and I, we're very busy and we have a few other streams of revenue, so we're able to balance. But then there's people like Maritza who went away from work. She was driven. She had no other choice but to find a job, to show up to work, do her due diligence, to be pushed away from this type of.
I don't know. Is that what muted still?
Maybe. I just need to speak up a little bit. How do I hear it? Y'all doing all right out there? All right, good. No, but really, she could have just done the bare minimum, but she pushed, and she shouldn't be discredited for that, because, again, let's not forget, this is America. We are driven for success, land of opportunity, freedom. And so, exactly why us as a whole, Dominion Cutting Co., I mean, like I said, I myself, there's no sense in me personally receiving money, but again, our staff, they definitely could use the support. So, other than that, yeah, take into account that I know one of the things from Local First was that if you were docked points if you had a job through the pandemic or another stream of revenue coming in. Again, back to the sense of America and why we are all here today is because of that sense of drive, freedom, ambition. Like, we can't discredit people for maximizing their efforts, their times to, provide a life for themselves and their family. So, thank you for your time. And
yeah, we need to applaud those folks. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be applauding those folks that didn't just sit around and did whatever they had to do to pay their bills and feed their families. And I don't think it's out of the question, although I'm no expert about anything, so we need to ask this question from the people that know. Why can't we, so your business is the perfect example. You get your $2,500 or $5,000 or $1,000 or whatever it is. You divvy it up. How do we get that in writing where it's divvied up amongst the folks that really need it? And then that way you're assured.
So following up with that too, in this exact scenario, John and I are both owners of Dominion Cutting Co. My worry, based on the AZ Local First guidelines for this money, is that I have a job. I sustained a steady flow of income with my job as a professor. But if I am a business owner on this business license, is that going to impact how much money comes into Dominion Cutting Co.? And if Maritza can't apply by herself, and we are then docked funds because of my job that's not associated with their well-being and their everyday income, that's not fair.
It's not.
And so we have to figure that out, because I'm not just thinking of him being out of work, but our employees at the time. If my name being on that business license and showing proof of income throughout COVID is going to impact that, that's not fair. So that's a question that I would have in regards to that as well.
So that's a criteria question.
So,
Sorry, one more thing before.
I was going to respond real quick. Like I say, Arizona First they've done this a lot. They've done the same scenarios. We can run that scenario by there, but I think their true heart and Kimber's heart is to try to make sure that the people who have a need are going to get the first crack at are going to get a crack at the funding. And I think in the conversation, it's a forum, but it's also a conversation with the two of you. And I think you can express that when you talk to them about where the needs are in the stories. And so I have faith that the conversation will lead to the fact that, owners, not so bad, but my people, the people of my contractors, they need that, and I think that can be managed through this system. But again, I'd like to remind everybody, we need to be careful that we keep that same system that she's used before, but I'd be happy to run your specific scenario with Kimber and find out kind of how she gets a read on that, and then I can share that with you back on the 8th.
She talked about the point system, and that was one of the things that she said would deduct points on the scoring system would be if there was a steady flow of income. She also said families that have children in the home versus those that don't. We don't have children in our home, so that would be points against us. So it's a real concern that I have, and it would be great to go off of good faith that they're here to help, but I think I probably had good faith that my city would have reached out sooner, and that didn't happen either. And so these are serious concerns that people have. And I worry about that one a lot.
Christy Catherine, President Chamber.
Yes, and small business owner. The communication is frustrating. At the time that you had funds, it would have been nice to have the business community involved. At the time, the criteria is based on what you want, not local first is what the local first people told me. That I may be incorrect, but that's my understanding is that you set up the criteria and then they take it. You may have taken their recommendations, but it's your criteria. Oh, thanks, Danny. You're a lifesaver. So even in the criteria is a little frustrating that it would have been nice maybe to have more business input. And the mayor was nice enough and he's talked to some business, that's awesome. But the lack of communication, we don't know that. And some of the, I talked to Dream Manor because I work with them closely and all the weddings that I have not been able to do this year personally. But when you have also a criteria of 10 employees or less, that's awesome for me. But I can't bring in the tax revenue that a Dream Manor can to Globe. And so they've lost $250,000 in weddings. And they lost $25,000 in parties this year, just this month. So when you look at that criteria and the amount that we originally talked about, $50,000 to $84,000, that doesn't take care of our biggest tax people who support the city and can do more than I can do as a small business. And yet, as a small business and representing all businesses in the chamber, I'm concerned about everybody. And again, the lack of communication has been, it's very frustrating because good people that I had a great experience in coming in and doing a business in Globe. Personally, I did. I can't say anything negative about anyone who helped me because you helped me open. And I so appreciate that. But there's a big issues that we could have had so much better communication and all the way into here. And if you want a healthy economy, the amount that's been allocated to even talk about isn't even close to what some of these bigger businesses and smaller businesses really need. So I think the criteria needs to be looked at. I think there needs to be a lot of discussion, and I think more business people should have been involved.
And
Thank you, Chris.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, if I, so, I mean, and this is why we tabled, the council tabled the action the last meeting so we could come get the input from the business community. That's why we're here tonight. And so let me read to you what the criteria is and some of the things it's not. Right now, the criteria that we have on the table, businesses must be a brick and mortar, located within the boundaries of the city of Globe. And so if you're working out of your house, that would be not qualifying. Businesses must be in operation prior to March 11th, 2020. Businesses have 10 employees or less. Business has an active business license through the city of Globe. Businesses are only permitted to submit one application per business. Eligible business types include sole proprietorships, corporations, independent contractors, partnerships, and LLCs. We had indicated nonprofit on there, but that was an inaccuracy, and at this point, nonprofits are not included. Let's see here. Award amounts are based on Local First Arizona Foundation Determination of Need and their application process. Businesses must apply online through the online portal during the enrollment period in compliance with the Local First process. And we're looking for also businesses that have a good faith intention to stay open for the next 6 months, and also that they're fully in compliance with state, local, and federal laws. And so those are the criteria that we have, that we're considering. And if anybody wants to come up to the mic and talk about that, they're welcome to. Okay. Can you come up to the mic?
Matt, can you come to the podium,
Yeah.
please? While you're coming up here, Charlene, you have a comment?
I do. This is not the city's criteria that we have all sat here and decided. This is local first criteria, and I'm not discounting that. I'm saying we tailor fit it to our community. That's what we need to be doing, in my opinion.
So, to Maritz's point, and the only date that's on your criteria is March 11th to be in business, could Maritza just go get a license now, and that could make her compliant, and then she can apply?
You would have to be in business prior to March. Prior, I'm sorry.
But she was in business before March. She's been in business since then. That's for being in business. When you get to the business license, there's no date on that. It just says you have to have an active one. So does that mean they have an active one today? Like they go to the city now and then tomorrow they apply for the grant? Or do they have to have an active license back to March? You're not clear on that part.
Yeah, no, what it says specifically, business was operating in Globe prior to March 10th.
That doesn't say they have a business license though.
Yeah.
That just says they were operating.
Business has an active business license through the city of Globe. And so
There's separate criteria. Those are separate points. Though.
Right.
Yeah, so you didn't give a date to the business license portion.
But I don't know. I'd have to look at our requirements for business licenses if they exclude. I'd have to look at how we issued the business licenses, whether she would qualify for one right now.
Okay.
But you make a good point. We can look at.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is to have more businesses, so why don't you incentivize them to get a license and do it, the right way? So that's my point.
Thank you, Matt. Craig?
Thank you. I'm Craig Jones. I'm representing the Hollis Theaters. I'm going to tell you, we got hit with a double whammy. Not only did we get hit with COVID, but then because of COVID, the Universal Studios and everybody shut down, and we're not getting anything. Being a small town, we don't pick. I don't know. A lot of people don't understand. We don't pick the movies we get. They tell us what we're going to show and how long we're going to show it. Okay, and so when we get these movies, we have a broker, and the broker right now, he's doing his best, but there's a lot of them aren't coming out, and some of the ones that are coming out, they want them into larger theaters, and so small town Globe is not going to get it, not until it's an older movie at least. So we got hit, and I know it's nobody's fault, but we were shut down for 5 months, and we hurt really bad. We lost a lot of money, and a lot of equipment was sitting there that we're still paying for that wasn't getting taken care of, and I'm not going to lie, we do need help because we're down to weekends open right now, and our next step is to close permanently, and this town's going to really hurt if that happens. You think some people don't care, but you don't have a show in this town, and you're going to see a big difference because business is what keeps the town going. You people have to realize that too. Without the business, you're not going to get any tax dollars, Right. So you got to keep the business going. You got to do your best to help them out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Mickey?
My name is Mickey Nye. I do care about the movie theater, and I really hope you guys find a way to stay open because it's a huge asset to our town. I'd like to talk to the council for a second. I got a letter from the county the other day, and I was shocked because it had to do with my health department permit. And there was a real nice letter in that application to renew my permit, and the positive thing that came out of it for me was the letter said, my God, the County Board of Supervisors have graciously decided to waive 25% of my health department fee. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but you know what? It meant a lot to me that at least out of left field, they cared. They did something without anybody begging or asking or talking to them. So I truly appreciate the fact that the county health department has waived $50 to me. It makes a difference. I'm going to talk to you about an experience at the Dairy Queen. A couple of months ago, we had an employee who contracted COVID and went to the health department, and we were actually shut down for 2 days. And our hours modified because of contact tracing. I lost more than half my staff. And my employees that were quarantined were paid by me. And I can tell you that between the wages, the lost income, and the money I spent because we cleaned that Dairy Queen, even though it happened not inside my building, we cleaned that building from ceiling to floor, every piece of equipment, everything, front to back of the house. And because of my one employee that tested positive for COVID, because the rest of the employees came back negative anyway, that cost me personally at a minimum of $9,000 to $10,000. I have to back up to show that that's what that cost me. I can tell you that buying a case of gloves that we all use used to be $23, $24, is now $107. I can tell you that buying sanitizer that we're all required to have now is $125 for 12 bottles, which doesn't go that far. I have 17 employees, and I'm not saying I'm asking for money, I'm not saying I'm not asking for money, I'm just saying I believe that criteria of having less than 10 employees is not necessary, it's inappropriate. If it's 10, why not 11? If not 11, why not 20? If not 20, why not 50? I have a concern about arbitrarily picking 10 employees. I'm
Mickey,
asking.
I have a question while you're speaking about that. So your 10 employees are not all full-time, right? Because
Goodness,
you
no.
have a lot of part-timers.
Yeah, I've got only a couple of full-time people.
Yeah, so all those part-timers add up to one full-timer.
Yeah, because we work around schedules and babysitting and all kinds of things. I can tell you that the Dairy Queen paid over $112,000 in sales tax last year. I know that the city doesn't get all of that money, but that's the kind of money that a small, local, family-owned Dairy Queen is generated.
Thank you.
I'm asking for $350,000 to be put aside for the business community. I think that there are restaurants in this town. There is not one specific industry that's been hurt more than the restaurant industry. You know, people will tease me about, oh my God, you've got cars out to the street. It takes me 2 employees for every car that I used to not have to do. It costs me more money to run a drive-through alone than it does to have my dining room open. I used to do 40% of my volume in the dining room. And now with 100% at the drive-through, it costs me more. Somebody's got to go out and take the food. A different person's got to go out and take the money. Somebody else is taking orders to get the cars off the street and stuff. This has not been as profitable because you see cars out to the street at fast food restaurants or whatever. I'm asking the town to invest in business and not a fire truck. I promise you that we will give you a better return on your investment if you invest in the business community in this town. And I'll be more than happy to answer your question, but I really think the number 10 is a wrong number. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Paul, would you like to address anything?
No, and I do believe we're looking at the 10 employees. That's a common threshold to cut that off. And Mickey, do you total number of employees? How many do you have?
17.
And do you have more than 10 FTEs? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Up next.
Hello.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi. They know my name because I've been up here a lot lately. But for those of you who don't, I'm Stacy Murray. I am owner of Kachina Properties. I'm also owner of Globe Gym and Globe Cobra Valley CrossFit. I'm also president-elect of the Chamber of Commerce. I have lived here my entire life. I raised my kids here and now my grandbabies. So my biggest concern over the last few weeks has been transparency, as we all know. If we wouldn't have found out about this money a few weeks ago, we probably wouldn't be here today. But I do appreciate the council members' efforts to listen and the efforts to create this fund. We are blessed that this is even happening right now. And I want to, first and foremost, at the last council meeting, Freddie had a ton of integrity in admitting the fact that Charlene Giles and Jesse Leatham on the council were rattling the cages, is the term he used, telling them that, wait a second, some of this money does need to go out to the business community. And so a huge thank you to Charlene and Jesse, because they were trying to fight for us behind the scenes. And thankfully, that makes me feel good that there's council members that were considering our situation as business owners.
Thank you for saying that, because we have taken an incredible, ugly amount of crapola for doing that. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that.
And we appreciate this, because this fund, I mean, you guys pulled this off really quick. This is all happening very fast, which is part of the reason why it has been difficult for the community to find out about the fact that this is even happening, is because there's not been a lot of time involved in this process. So I just appreciate how quickly you guys are trying to do it. It's not, I'm looking at this as a blessing. I don't want it to seem like we're not thankful, because I know I am. I know we're lucky to at least be in this place we are today. Even if it came late, we're here. And we appreciate that. To go back to the eligibility requirements, from the information that I received from conversations that the president of the chamber, Christy, had with Arizona Local First, she did make it clear to us that it really is part of the city council's direction that they will follow in respect to the grant. I really believe that if we went back and asked Arizona Local First, they would probably agree to some of that. I'm sure that there has to be some kind of guidelines. You can't just say everybody gets the money. I mean, obviously we understand there has to be some kind of eligibility requirements. However, I do believe that there's different ways of looking at it. And I'm going to refer back to the last city council meeting when I did give you some of the information with respect to what some of the other cities in Arizona did. And just to kind of go back to that, some of them were able, by the way, to give money to independent contractors and to home-based businesses. I just want you to know that that was something that Arizona Local First did facilitate. Now, some of those cities, by the way, got a ton of money. And we know we're not necessarily one of the cities that got a ton of money. However, it is something to consider when you guys go back to Arizona Local First, is how can this be done properly? I don't know about home-based and how that works, but let's just think about the fact that the home-based businesses out there did suffer as well. There's people who are vendors, like pop-up shop. They make things. They couldn't go and go to shows and sell their product. There's photographers who don't have a brick and mortar building that weren't taking pictures. I mean, there's a lot of home-based businesses out there we're not considering that couldn't make money either, that were also considered non-essential. My biggest thing is independent contractors. Obviously, for a lot of what, for instance, Maritza, John Daniel, and Erica were discussing, I'm in the same situation as the owner of the gym. I purposefully structured my business So that's all I had was independent contractors. When I went 24 hours, 7 days a week, I did not need to have a staff person there from opening to closing any longer. This was now a business where people could use their key tag and come in. Therefore, the staffed hours, I was able to completely minimize them, in which my husband is now able to run the gym during those staffed hours, and I did not need to have an employee on staff. Therefore, my independent contractors are my personal trainers, my class instructors. When we were told to shut down, it wasn't just us not making money. It was also my independent contractors not making money. And it's something that they would never go and get their own business license for because they don't need to. They basically make a percentage off of the income that they're bringing into my facility. I know that I, as a business owner, can receive funds from the relief fund and then distribute it how I feel fit. But I'm gonna be completely honest with you, $2,500 is not even close. Something that, it's not gonna go very far. And the point of that is just, I hate to say it, but there is businesses in this town that operate at completely different financial levels, right? That's where it's gonna be very difficult for you guys, and I understand that, because we're not saying that we couldn't use $2,500, because we could. All of us could. The point of the matter is there's some businesses that's like a bill. I mean, it really depends on the business that you're looking at. I mean, Hollis Theater and Dairy Queen, their overhead is, that's astronomical in compared to, let's say, for instance, a home-based business. So we're looking at this very tiered basis of businesses, and at the same time, we're also looking at businesses that were closed much longer than others were, or there's some that were able to open but at much lower capacity, and that affected them financially as well. The point of the matter is that we have a situation here where, based on our business, we all have different need, based how we're structured, based at how long we were closed, based on what is our capacity level of how we can function today being open. It's a huge thing to look at, and I'm not trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be, but I think we need to consider all of those things. I don't think people are realizing that when I was closed and I had very, when I say I'm talking about Globe Gym, by the way, I'm sorry. I had a lot of loyal members who chose to continue to pay their membership even though they didn't get to come in and work out. That shows what kind of community we live in, guys, because that's huge that they did that, okay? Because if we would have been closed, for even a couple more weeks, I don't know if we could have made it. There was a lot of members, because the Globe Gym got shut down twice, by the way. There was a lot of members who, in the first go-round, were very just kind of, everyone was scared and not sure what was going on, and hopefully this all ends soon. And then the second go-around, they were like, yeah, I'm not going to keep paying membership for very much longer. They were afraid how much longer it could go, and that's not fair for them to continue to pay. So we did lose a lot of memberships, even more in the second closure. We were closed a long time the second time as well. But what people aren't understanding, it wasn't just the membership. That's not the only way we make money. We also, my husband is a martial arts instructor. That's his main form of income. We were not able to do that. We, have people walk in to work out for the day or the week. We have a vending machine that we still had to make a payment on, but no money was coming into it. So, there's a lot of other ways that it wasn't just the fact of being closed. It wasn't just the fact of the bars you know, for instance, them not being open, and it's them not being able to pay their employees, and it's all these other things that we need to consider, because those employees that were at home and weren't working, those people who didn't get unemployment or didn't get it for very long, we need to think about the community as a whole. How many people out there today are still laid off? How many people out there today still need help? I mean, I just feel like this is something we need to look at on a much, much bigger scale than just small businesses under 10. I feel like we need to look at this way bigger than it is today. And to also possibly think about what can happen if we get closed, because it doesn't look good for us right now. Let's be honest. What's going to happen if we get closed again? So I don't know if we're going to get money again, but if we don't, and I don't know how quickly we can recover the funds. For instance, let's say on a wildland fire truck, I don't know how long it takes to pay itself back off. And then once it does, how much more money can we make to then try to let the money get put back in for COVID relief? I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure. If someone can explain that, that would be great. But is there a way that we could maybe hold off and save some of the money? Or, you know, that's I think my biggest concern is how long is this going to continue? Will we be able to get funds again? And is there another way to look at the fact that other cities were able to give money to nonprofits, which, by the way, are hurting right now as well? Chamber of Commerce, let's just give an example. A large portion of our income does come from events, and we were not able to have any in 2020, so we're suffering as well. There's other organizations out there that are suffering just the same. And some of these organizations, by the way, are organizations that help people financially in our community. And then also to consider the fact that other cities were able to give money to food banks and things like that. I want it to all be considered. I don't want it to just be a small business relief. I want us to have much bigger eyes. That's my hope for this.
I have a question for you, Stacy. So what really rang home with me that I probably does with a lot of folks here are the people that work in your facility and maybe even in yours and in the hair salons and other places. There are a lot of those folks that are independent contractors that don't have business licenses.
Correct.
That needs to be addressed, because I think there's a lot of folks in this community that would fall under that umbrella, and maybe each business owner you can name, I'm sure off the top of your head, your 3 or 4 or 8 or however many there are, you know exactly who they are. You guys know who they are. You know, maybe we need that information as well.
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
I think too, if people, as they're leaving, this is something that occurred to me, so everybody signed in, can you put next to your name where you signed in, can you put the name of your business and how many weeks you were closed? Bobby Hollis told me he was closed for 28 weeks. That's more than half the year. So that would be helpful too in determining the criteria.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Jennings, for letting us use the building.
Paul, do you have anything to add to Stacy's? Okay. Debbie?
Hi, how are you? Good evening. I'm Debbie Cox. A couple things that I'm hearing, because I didn't read last week's paper with regards to what was going on. We were kind of preoccupied at the office. There's a couple things that I wonder about. One is, it doesn't seem like there's been enough time for any determination to be made. Excuse me. Either from how much that you're talking about to potentially have for the businesses, who's going to be entitled to it. I don't think there's been near enough questions that have been asked about that. Doing this on December 8th seems like a little bit too much of a rush without the research being done. So I think that more of the businesses in the area need to be contacted. Excuse Excuse me, I have an energy drink stuck in my throat. And more participation needs to be done and more discussion to be done. Whether that's among several different kinds of businesses that are all the same, like the hair cutters, whoever is affected with their companies. Maybe they can have a representative that can meet with each section that would be requesting the funds and see if there's more information that can be provided to you guys so that you can make an informed decision and decide on an amount. These are really big decisions. Secondary thing is, anybody who knows me knows I am a huge proponent for law enforcement. I hate to see us go backwards when it has taken us this long to get around the curve. We have had bad buildings, not enough officers, no equipment that worked well for our guys, constantly putting them in any kind of jeopardy that you can possibly think of. I don't want to see that go backwards either. So that's what I mean. I think this is all just being rushed. December 8th is too soon to make a decision. Even if you say we're just going to start out with 50,000, what you're going to end up doing is making more contention in the community, because it's going to be, why did they get the money and I didn't? Did they get their application in first while I'm still doing my research? You haven't even decided on a full criteria from all these conversations that have happened from the community. So that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Nothing, Paul? You done?
I'm Udon McSpadden, and we have McSpadden Ford and Globe. And in all transparency, let me just say that we have our nose above water. It's not been the best year, probably been the worst year we've probably had in 35 or 40 years. But McSpadden Ford is not seeking one red cent. But at the same time, I'm going to say I don't want the city to reabsorb the amount of money that McSpadden Ford would get. I think that there's been a lot of pain endured by a lot of people locally. You know, you don't get a chance to tell your community how much you appreciate them all the way around. But we've been here 50 years. This is our 51st year. And truly appreciate our entire community for past business, for loyalty, my employees, the dedication that they bring to their job. But at the same time, I will say, and me and Al have talked about this a little bit, I think a big part of this has been transparency. I really believe transparency needs to happen in this. It seems to me like the money came, city knew about it, and it's only been the last week and a half that I've even heard anything about it. I feel like the city should probably get some input. I believe that the businesses that are here locally, I believe that they need to be the first people that are considered in everything that needs to happen in this fund. The second, and equally so, we've got organizations that have suffered this year. You know, I can name a few of them. The food bank. Nice thing about giving to the food bank, you guys make that possible with the way you set this thing up. You help people that aren't even in business that have suffered through this. So that filters all the way down to people who need to eat, okay? The Humane Society, they haven't been able to have their fundraisers either. You know, I talked to them directly. You know, they've experienced $13,000 of expense here recently, and they have not had any fundraisers. Their fundraisers have been shot. They've got no revenue, but you know, they're having to work out of their capital that they have. I think there's been a lot of people to suffer through this with the city of Globe. And this is my personal feeling. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I believe at least 1/3 of those funds, right at $300,000, I believe should be dedicated to the benefit of our community. And I don't care how you make it happen. I don't care what regulations you put. I don't care how many employees you put on it. I'm not looking for it. I'm not going to apply for it. But I'm going to tell you right now, this community needs to be the first thing that needs to be thought about by this city council. They need to benefit from what's going on. $50,000, you might as well stick your finger in our eye. That's just not enough. It's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. This should be really sincere, you know? And like I said, you know, this should not be a wish list for the city of Globe. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be real. This should not be a wish list for the city of Globe. This should be something that helps our community and benefits our community. And when I say that, I mean it should filter all the way down to the people who need to eat. That's exactly how I feel about it.
Thank you, Ron. Anybody else want to come up? Cindy?
Good evening, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. I want to commend you and let you know that I respect that the first thing you did, which was the right thing to do, is make sure that our police department, our city workers, and our firefighters will continue to get paid as they should. But there's a fourth component to every community, and that's your small businesses. A lot of us, and I don't think I'm incorrect in stating that probably over 50% of the small businesses in this community, such as myself, I don't draw a paycheck or a salary. So imagine just one of your city workers or one of your police department personnel, which of course are way more important than I, but imagine if they went 1 month or 5 months without any paycheck, just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Your business community is just as important to make a complete community. You have the opportunity to not gift anything, but help your community survive on all the levels, both municipal, our police department is the most important, our fire department absolutely, but your business community is equally as important to make a whole community. So I respectfully thank you for giving us this opportunity and respectfully ask you to reconsider the amount of money you're going to be able, because as a lot of these folks have said, should we get another wave, I don't know that my doors will reopen. I don't know that a lot of their doors will reopen. Some of them still have not reopened their doors. You have an opportunity. Please utilize it to the best of your ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
That was well said, Cindy. Thank you.
Paul, anything? No? Next.
Good evening. My name is Annie Villalobos. Stacy addressed last council meeting on my behalf. I'm a part owner of the La Casita Downtown Globe. I'm very concerned due to the fact that my business will not meet the requirements that were discussed at last week's meeting. Therefore, we are not going to qualify for any of the funding due to the CARES Act. Since this pandemic has hit our business, I have spent well over $2,000 alone in PPE needed to reopen my business from takeout to dine-in. Prior to opening, we were open just for takeout only for 4 months, which drastically lowered our monthly income. I'm sure my circumstances are not equivalent to everyone out here, but we're all struggling in our own ways. The money that the City of Globe received from the CARES Act was a substantial amount that could have benefited many local small businesses as well as our community as a whole. Once the money was received, it should have been publicly announced and celebrated, not kept a secret for us to find out on our own 6 months later. When looking into other communities distributing their CARES Act monies, their initial thought was to address the public and the small businesses. My question is, why were we never informed? Why was there never any public meetings until now? This is common sense, to share the wealth where it is needed most, instead of where it is wanted. You all need to take into perspective that your positions require you to do what is right for this community. How is not helping small businesses flourishing in our community gonna benefit this community at all? I was born and raised in Globe. I choose to live here and maintain my family's business, which was established in 1947. Without small businesses, this town is nothing. We are what keeps the tax revenue here locally. Globe is a wonderful community that has much to offer, and my only hope is that we all can work together and find a solution to this horrible situation that we're all in together. I pray that we can get through these tough times as a community should, and the only way we're going to do that is if we listen to all parties involved and help our small businesses, which will in turn keep our community flourishing. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlene has a question.
I have
for
a
you.
question. Tell me why you said your business in particular would not qualify because of the criteria. Why is that, and how can we tweak that criteria so you do qualify?
We have over 10 employees.
But they're not all full-time.
No, they're not all full-time. But that's not stated in this pamphlet, how the employees have to be.
And so was that the only reason you were thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have that question.
And so, real quick, yeah, how many, so do you know how many full-time equivalents you have? I mean, do you have 5 full-time and 10
Just
part-
me, myself, and my aunt are considered full-time, and then all of our employees are, we
3
have
and 7.
we have about probably 13 other employees.
And they're all part-time?
Yes.
And then, and just a quick comment, this money was dealt with and passed in a series of 3 public meetings in June and July. And so it was done in public. I don't want to debate,
Right.
the fact that the reason that we didn't have a long discussion about doing the business side of it was because at that time it was considered that it wouldn't be possible. And so, but.
Right, I
just
mean,
wanna
I
make
think we all understand that it wasn't laid out on a platform on what's right and what's wrong with these monies because nobody's been through COVID. Nobody knows what everyone's facing at this time. But what is important to this community? What keeps this community? Everybody, the people, the public, the small businesses is what keeps this community going. For us to barely be informed a couple weeks ago, and we weren't, let me just mention, we weren't brought to, wasn't brought to our attention from the council members. It was certain community members that had found out what was going on. And hey, business owners, this is what's going on. You guys should listen up, follow along what's going on here. And that's how all of this even came about. A couple weeks ago, had this have never come out, this meeting wouldn't even be taking place right now. Nobody would be here, nobody would have any input or anything. And that's what I think worries the whole room here, is that there is, like Stacy said, there was nothing given to any community members, anybody. Yes, ma'am.
So there were some of us that did go
Oh, no,
down and
you're
talk
right.
to the businesses and say, please get involved. Please let us know your feelings.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that we were doing anything underhanded or wrong. We want to know. The most of us want to know what you think. That's why we're here.
Well, I understand that there's a couple members that do, but had that meeting a couple weeks ago of not happened, what I'm saying is we wouldn't be here where we are today with all this, getting everyone's community input is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So thank you for that, allowing us to have our opportunity and listen to us and see what's needed as far as a community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, do you have anything to add to that? No? Okay, next.
Hello. Sorry, I'm taller than most people. My name is Desmond Baker. I'm a local business owner, owner of businesses and buildings and so on and so forth. And as most people in this room know, notorious enemy of the state. And that seems to be my role in this community, even though, for the most part, what I've done is just, fixed up buildings and homes and so on and so forth. But this is more, I'm not interested in what has gone on with the council or something. This is more an address to you, we the people. So forgive me, this is not a schooling or anything, but I do want to mention, as my grandfather used to say, because I'm an Arizona native and my family were early Arizona pioneers, this ain't my first dog and pony show. Again, because my family were rodeo riders, and they had a whole bunch of colloquialisms. And I'm not talking about the council or this situation so much as that I've been in small business in one way or another all of my adult life. When I left college, I started building swimming pools down in the valley, and so on and so forth. And then I've just gone from one to another, usually based on the fact that the world is just this dog and pony show. And so this isn't, COVID-19 is not the first thing. 2020 is not the first thing to hit us as small businessmen. I mean, I've changed constantly, adapted. I am not a restaurateur. I mean, by nature. My daughter Jordan is a restaurateur and a chef. And so I just kept trying to figure out ways to employ my children so that they would just be here with me because I love my adult children. I've raised adult children, and most of them live here in this community. But in that long process, we've had so many, when it comes to economy, as small business people, we've had so many things that came down the pike. And again, this isn't the first time it hit us for a different reason. Everybody, I think a lot of people, would remember 2008 above a lot of things, but that wasn't the first one. When we got hit by a huge housing crisis before that. Before that was another crisis. I'm talking about the economy, that the world always affects economy. So now here we are, and yeah, I've been hit economically pretty hard. After 2008, again, I mean, I had the feds on me, I had county on me, I had local city on me, we had state on us. I mean, it was just, it's hard sometimes to be in small business. When it came to the Small Businessman Association after 2008, as a lobbying group, they just said, hey, we're shutting down for the most part because the feds are now just saying, hey, we're not going to listen to you anymore. All those bailout monies went to banking institutions and large corporations, and I never saw a dime. In fact, as a person who had lived off of credit scores, because I probably had access at that point in time because of my success in the ability to create jobs, at any point in time, I could probably grab a couple million from a lending institution as long as I was going to start a business and employ people. But because I was considered an enemy of financial institutions because I paid back loans. In other words, I used them for my benefit. They very seldom saw the reasons why I was a part of their system. In other words, I just figured out a way to use their system. Since then, I haven't used banks. I figured out a way to finance myself. Went back to real small businesses, like the one I operate now. So I want to talk for just a moment, I'm going to be very brief, about a thing called laissez-faire. And laissez-faire literally means no interference. So our financial institution of free enterprise is supposed to be based on laissez-faire, which is a hard thing to do because, our government mints money and so on and so forth. And financial institutions are such a big part of our government. But here's what my point is when it comes to stuff like this. So come the original package that would happen this 2020, where the Fed said, okay, here's some money you can use in order to pay your employees, and if you use it right, it's a no payback loan. And we did. We pay our employees well. We always have. It's one thing I've learned in small business. And then it helped me to continue to pay employees, or to give employees a reason to put aside their fears of COVID-19 and to continue to work in public. And so it was a weird thing for me. I was just like, you're actually helping me, you know. And then this money comes along, and it seems like it had the capacity for the same type of thing. But when it comes to laissez-faire, I don't need the government to take care of me. I don't need the feds to take care of me. I don't need the state to take care of me. I don't need a county to take care of me. I don't need a small municipality to take care of me. I mean, they have a job. I mean, I've been on city council. It's been stated here tonight what the requirements are, but I don't need them to distribute, you know, and to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Here's $2,500. You're like, that is laughable. Do you even have any idea what my costs are? You have no idea, because most government, the reason why government makes bad business is because they're just bad businessmen. But you really need, like at this point in time, I believe our local government, when it comes to laissez-faire, not only economically, but in more ways than one, they've overreached. They now have, in many nonprofits, they have a voting member of City Hall or Council on those nonprofits that they stipulate has to happen. That's just wrong. We need to take that back, because the city manager works for City Hall, but City Hall is run by the City Council, and the City Council does not work for us. They represent us. And we, the people, can say, hey, too much government interference, especially concerning this money. And how? I don't care how you got to go through it, but I would say, I mean, we've crunched the numbers, just me and my accountants and stuff, and we say, hey, I don't see any reason why $343,000 of all that money that you got, don't be in a business of buying and leasing a wildland truck. Give us the money. I guarantee you, just like I talked about back in 2008 to lending institutions, you give me the money, I'll create jobs. I'll keep jobs open. I'll create more jobs. But I'm not going to apply for this. I have more than 11 employees. My employees stuck by us. I don't know. I don't understand what the conversation is about part-time. We have part-time employees simply because many of them go to college and they go to school. They need that time. I don't know if Charlene was mentioning that because it's a negative thing or a positive thing, but when it comes to that, you're like, we pay well because we want people to move on. We want them to stay in this community, and we want them to grow. And we also produce people who create small businesses. So laissez-faire, it literally means no government interference. We can't achieve that, but when it comes to the economy, I say low government interference. I understand that you have the privilege or the ability to spend those monies any way you choose, but we the people can rise up. We're only a town of around 9,000 people. We can rise up and say, we want this much money out of that. And I say $343,000 is not a bad sum. So thank you.
And my comment,
Charlene had a comment?
yeah, my comment was the part-time is certainly not a slam. It's trying to help the folks that have part-time employees. I've been there. I know what that's like. How do you pay? You can't pay yourself. How are you going to pay your part-time employee? So I think if we can lower the threshold to include part-time employees in the local first criteria, it benefits our businesses.
I absolutely agree. Paul, do you have anything to add to what Desi said? Yeah. Anybody else want to speak?
I'm back. Moki Flores. When I stepped up first, I was kind of helping out the hub, but I had things to say of myself. I think the number of employees keeps coming up because on the paperwork it says less than 10. It doesn't say less than 10 full-time. It just says less than 10 employees. So I think that's the question that many of us have is and wanting more clarification. If we're adding up part-times into one full-time, I guess that can make a difference, but the paperwork doesn't say that. I am also the owner of Zona Ice. I have a question, again, regarding criteria. One of the criteria says in operation in March of 2020. Zona is a seasonal business. We were planning to open in March for our new season. We were planning to open in alignment with spring break, and then we didn't because of COVID. And so we weren't in operation. We had an active business license, but we were not open in operation in March. We did open in May when we were allowed to, at just offering curbside. We took a really big loss this year, but we did try to provide an enjoyable service for our community. Thinking about COVID being a health crisis, I think all of the businesses here are continuing to do their part and to help mitigate the spread of COVID. They're purchasing masks, they're purchasing hand sanitizer, they've bought plexiglass, they're limiting the capacity in their buildings, they're not taking as many appointments as they nearly would, which they're open, which is wonderful, but the cost is still rising for us in ways that we did not anticipate. When it comes to transparency, it keeps being brought up, and it's because it's important. The people who are here tonight are here because we as business owners reached out to each other. I know that Annie literally walked into businesses today inviting people to come. I own 3 businesses and work a full-time job, and I'm text messaging people at 11 o'clock at night telling them to be here. And then we're constantly checking the City of Globe Facebook page because the location changed and there were people who at 5:30 still didn't know that the meeting was being held at High Desert. So then my question moving forward, once this program is rolling, is how is the city going to communicate this to business owners? Because I mean, we've done a great job at getting people here. We, meaning business owners, have done a great job of getting people here tonight, but it's taken a lot out of us. I think we're all stressed, we're tired. Not only are we dealing with our businesses and our numbers and all of this, now we're worried about each other. And so what is the city going to do to make sure that people know about this program, how to get it, how to apply, all of the things? I know that I'm certain that we will still reach out to each other once that information is available, but I mean, are you going to be the ones that are calling and sending messages and walking into businesses like we've been doing for the last 2 weeks? I've been thinking a lot about the status quo, right? It's nice to be able to meet the status quo, and so we think about well, the city of Florence has done this, and Wilcox did that, and Superior did this, and it kind of all sums up to like a percentage that has been thrown out a few times is 10%. 10% is nice. I'm a teacher by trade, profession, I guess, and I've always taught my students that it's great to meet something, to be able to just do it. C's get degrees, right? But how can you exceed? How can you move even further beyond the expectation that has been set? And I think a lot about Globe. We are an amazing community, we're an amazing town, and we do really phenomenal things. So when I think about what the city could do for small businesses, you could meet the status quo. You could. Or you could push it, you could exceed it, you could be the community, we could be the city who really is that gold star that every student is striving for from their teacher, right? We all want the gold star. Why don't we become the gold star community who is putting in to our small businesses more than what has been expected or what has been set? Because if we do that, then we're drawing attention, positive attention, to our community, And then maybe other people who have not started businesses but have thought about it. I talk to so many people who come to me and they say, I would love to start a business. You know, I'm not sure, I'm unsure. If they see that our city is supporting our small businesses, maybe we'll get more businesses to come to our city. That'd be great. So I would encourage you to push the limit and not just meet the status quo. And my last thing that I want to say is that it takes a team to make something like this happen. And I know that the city has a team who's been working really hard these last 2 weeks to kind of put this program in place and figure out all of these things. We are not here to battle your team. We want to be a part of it. And you couldn't have better team members. Starting a business, continuing its operations, and just regularly is really, really difficult, and it takes a special kind of person. Throw in a global pandemic, and these business owners are still here fighting and surviving and trying to move forward and make your community better. This is your team. And so we appreciate the fact that you're here to listen, and just know that you couldn't have better team members to help you figure this out right now, because that's what we've been trying to do this whole year, is just figure something out. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Marky.
Just real quick, before you go, like I say, when we do go to advertise this, we'll use a model of both social media, website, Facebook. I know Mayor can get on the radio and talk about this. We can also do newspaper if we have time. Depending on the time crunch, we'll get it out as many ways as we traditionally get information out. That's number one. Number two, how many? Can you think of any other seasonal businesses? I'm just curious, like yours, where you open in the summer, you close in the winter. I'm just curious. Can you think of any others?
Do you guys know of any seasonal, Matthew? What was that? Yes, Evolve Adventure. They just opened recently. They would be a great one. Tiana?
They're gone.
The batting cages.
Okay.
And there are also a lot of businesses that make all their money in a certain part of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
So they get the bulk of their money for February.
And the problem, like for example, that Zona is facing is that that's exactly right, and we didn't meet that. And so I don't know what next season will hold for us, if we will even be able to open our doors next season, because in what loss we took from this season, even being open, it's just like the numbers aren't lining up. So.
Thank you.
Everybody drives the 60. We need great big huge red and white banners that say, this is what you do, this is where you apply, this is how you do it.
Traditionally, it's the same way it's always been done. That's what you say, Facebook, social media, that kind of stuff. So the fact that we're in the city, outside of those, let's see some of that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, but do you look at it? I don't look at those little memos. I just say, oh man, I owe all this money, and I write the check.
And just a quick comment on the water bill. It only comes out once a month, and the lead time on that, so it's almost a month. Yeah, but we did.
We have every business, wait, we do have every business owner's license and address and name we can mail to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll deliver them to you, and thank you
Excuse
for
me,
that.
just a
Officer.
minute.
Appreciate that.
I just had one question for you as the city. And is the city willing to forego or postpone their planned expenditures to help out the other businesses around here that have been hurt? No, but is the city planning to do that, or is this just, we're having a discussion here and you're gonna go ahead with what you wanna do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be, you know, I'm sure everybody would like to know that question answered. But you're at least contemplating this, you know, to forego tile in certain places and other things. Not that these places don't need it, but a lot of these businesses have been hurt more so than you need tile or repaint a bathroom, whatever. Another question is, you're using this money for public safety, am I correct?
Yes, that's where it's been budgeted.
Yes, and as all these businesses were forced to shut down and whatnot, they were doing this in the name of public safety and public health. Am I correct? So should they not be in some way helped out, reimbursed for doing their part to help keep this community safe and healthy? So could not some of this money be spent to help them out for the sacrifices that they have made?
And I mean,
Randy, that's why we're here today.
You know, it is how you interpret it, but everybody did do their part in the name of public safety and public health.
And Randy, going back to your first question, like I say, this has been on the agenda for city council twice. It was in the last meeting and then I think the meeting of the 10th also. And then at the last meeting, it was asked to be tabled so we get the feedback here. We're coming back on the 8th so the council can digest this and have additional conversations. That doesn't guarantee that, you know, anything's going to be decided on the 8th. We'll just continue doing the process.
Yeah. You know, it was just a thought that maybe some of these ways that the city has chosen to spend this money could be maybe delayed in order to help out the businesses so that you would eventually get more tax revenue in, which would give you the revenue to do the things that you want to do now.
And Randy, I would just tell you in delaying, these are things that the money that this was put towards are not things that we've done in the past. These are, you know, new vehicles that were solely, you know, we have Crown Vics that are, you know, 10, 15 years old. The Type 3 is something that our partnership, we are circled with, you know, the Tonto Forest, and we need help out when people come to here. So that was the thought behind that. But this is something that we've been putting off, and we felt with the money coming from public safety, it was meant for public safety, the safe, and we thought the only option was to reinvest it back into public safety, and that's how this started. Now, it morphed when many other cities found ways and were not challenged by ways to get past the gift clause, and that's how we got in here now. But I just wanted to say that the things that we're trying to do with this money is not something that is something that's been put off and possibly could continue to put off. But we thought this was a chance to build up our public safety needs, because we found that going cheap on public safety in the past has been a detriment to the city also. So I think these are two equally balanced needs, but it's council's decision as to how we split this.
Yeah. You currently have a Type 3 truck, correct?
No,
you had
Type
one.
6.
You had one that was set up.
We have a ancient 6, but not a Type 3.
Okay. All right. No, it was just a thought that maybe the businesses could be helped out. And in time, generate more tax revenue for the city to be able to do maybe the things that you want to do now.
And Randy, I totally appreciate your comments, because that's the dilemma that we find ourselves in. And so,
Okay. No, just a question I had.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Randy, thank you.
Charlene has a comment to reply to Randy.
I'm not sure if it's a reply to Randy or I see our police chief sitting there. So this is what I want to say about the police cars. And some of you might have heard this at the last meeting. I pick up and deliver a lot of dogs, so I'm in town all the time, and I'm seeing a police car with the hood up, and then a couple of days later I'm seeing a police car with the jack and the tires off, and then I can't remember what the third thing was, but this was all within 1 week, and I said to our police chief, wow, so when I call for the police car, I really want it to come. I don't want it to have a flat tire. I don't want it to have whatever the deal under the engine was, the hood was up, I don't know, what all those things. Our community needs that. We need to have, when we call, they have to have the equipment that's getting them to us. I don't know where we're at as far as how many. You might have more information than this. I know that we have cars that have hundreds of thousands of miles on them and are parked in the boneyard because they're no good. No, I understand what you're saying. I just want people to understand too that we don't need to go buy 10 new police cars, but by golly, we need some. And when you guys are calling, you're going to want them to come to your house too.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dale Walters. I am the police chief. I've been with Glow for the last couple of years, and as much money as I spent on Randy Sullivan, I would have thought he'd been more supportive of me. Thanks, Randy. The first thing I would tell you is I cannot survive without the tax base and the tax revenue from the small business. We just can't. He was actually my employee for about a month and a half. I'm trying to get there right now. All right, I've got the beard and everything supporting you, John. So, a couple of things. The first thing I would tell you is, in listening to the discussion tonight, is I'm not sure that there shouldn't be a pathway like almost everything else that we do, that somebody could appeal a decision that's made, whatever the criteria is that comes up moving forward. Because I listened to a number of different things that were brought up tonight that I hadn't thought of, that the independent contractors, the hairdressers, and different things like that. So I don't know that there's one size that fits all. Clearly, there's a difference between one business to the other. I know the Dream Manor, having stayed there a number of times, their revenue stream is much different than some of the other smaller businesses in downtown. I understand that. So I don't know what the answer to that. I can tell you how we got to the position where we spent the money, or we allocated the money for it in the beginning, because I was a big part of that. I was also a big part of creating the documentation process for identifying money spent by the city and why we did that, because of the command group and everything else. When that money first came out, it was clear to us from talking to the attorneys and talking to some of the other cities in the cities league that it needed to be spent within the public safety realm, which worked out really well for the police department and the fire department because they've been underspent for so long. When I took over this police department, there are common practices that hadn't been done in decades. The lowest mileage I have on any of the patrol vehicles, those are the emergency vehicles, we got them as secondhand vehicles, as outdated vehicles from other departments and put them into service. I think I've had a couple over at McSpadden this year getting fixed. I got one sitting over there right now that's wrecked. I have 5 down patrol vehicles. The average mileage on my patrol vehicles is well over 100,000 miles. And that's very tough to do on patrol vehicles. To Councilwoman Charlene Giles' statements, we had at least 3 vehicles die en route to a 911 response. So these are things that we were looking at and identifying that we absolutely need, and it was a good choice for that money at the time. Sitting here today, it's obvious that through the innovation of different cities around the state and the manipulation of the gift clause and stuff, they were able to come up with ways to help small business. And having been part of this community for the last 2 years and watching some of the small businesses, some of them I consider friends like Greg, struggle opening and closing and opening and closing, having dealt with some of the different gym owners in town and watching what happens, it's clear to me that these organizations need the support from the city as well right now. It doesn't change the needs of police, and I know in talking with Gary behind me here, the needs for fire and stuff. Their fire apparatus right now, their ladder truck is over 20 years old, and it's going to be $2 million to replace it. This was a stepping stone and a stopgap for him with that Type 3. That's all it was. It was good planning on his part. I don't know if my vehicles or his vehicles are going to survive this, but that was the decision making behind this. It wasn't trying to shortchange the businesses. To be honest with you, when this first came out, I don't think anybody within city council, city government believed that they even had the ability to share that at that time. And then that was made through public meetings going forward. So the idea behind it is regardless of what we do with this money, at the end of the day, I'm still going to need patrol vehicles. We're still going to need fire apparatus. So regardless if we take away from that now or we come up with another plan, but clearly the businesses of our community need help. And it needs to be an ongoing thing where we're able to communicate with them and talk with them. And I got to be honest with you, I've been going to city council meetings for over 2 years here. I actually started 6 months before I got the job because I wanted a job and I wanted to see what it was about. This is the best turnout that I've seen collectively in a 6-month period. It would be nice to see this type of turnout at most of the city council meetings because what they have to say, it impacts all of us, day in and day out. So it would be nice that not under crisis, but you're part of the solution during the normal of it. The budgetary process where we passed the budget this year was open meeting. It was publicly notified. And it's your money that we're spending. It's your money that they're voting on and getting involved early on. So I think there's enough to go around here as far as communication, transparency, or whatever. But at the end of the day, clearly, I think the city needs to support the local businesses. And we've already got 5 cars sitting over McSpadden. I can't do anything about that, but if you need to suspend the other 3, be my guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next.
Good evening. My name is Tiana Holder. I'm the Executive Director of the Globe Miami Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm obviously not a business owner, but I represent many of them. I want to let you guys know I'm grateful that we're having this meeting. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to acknowledge my appreciation. I do think this is poor timing, though. I don't think it should have taken 6 months for this meeting to happen. I think in 6 months' time, we could have had multiple of these meetings, made decisions, and possibly started distributing monies. I know, Paul, you mentioned that it was on the last 2 council agendas. I'm not sure where all that was posted, but I think a lot of people didn't see that, and the fact that there was no community outreach or communication is frustrating for a lot of people. And the timing is just poor with the holidays as well. People are extra busy both with their businesses and with their personal lives.
And it is 2020. With the technology that we have today, we are more capable than ever of connecting with each other. Through social media, through the radio, through the paper. You know, you could have had this in the paper every week until the meeting happened. You could send out mailers, though. It doesn't even have to be in a water bill. It can be its own, you know, quarter page. If it's, especially if it's a different color, people will notice it. They'll read it. But I don't need to focus on that stuff because it's done. I just want to ask you guys to really think about the criteria for this money and how much you're going to set aside to help our community, because you have the capability to make a huge impact. And our restaurants and bars have suffered extensively. We have some that still have not opened. And with places like restaurants, you know, if they get 2,500, that doesn't necessarily keep them open forever. And that doesn't necessarily go to all their wait staff, who many of them lost their jobs or haven't had a job because they don't have tables to wait on. They don't have dine-in options. And our businesses that were mandated to close, like gyms, theaters, salons, those businesses really need help too. And so I ask that the criteria is really rethought. Contracted people like personal trainers, barbers, nail techs, etc., they cannot apply. And if the business owner does apply for it, that doesn't mean they're going to give it to their contractors. It would be great. You also don't know how many people they have contracted under them. So if you split that up evenly, it doesn't necessarily save them. It doesn't help them stay afloat. It doesn't keep them open. These are things that need to be taken into consideration. But you guys have the opportunity to set our community up for longevity and success. So please rethink the criteria that goes into these grants, however you do decide to go about it. If you go through Local First Arizona or someone else, I do think you should have a say in what the criteria is, and please rethink it, because there are businesses with more than 10 employees or people that are contracted that really need the help and currently can't get it. From a chamber perspective, we're hurting. Nonprofits are hurting. I definitely think that a decent amount of this money should go into our business community, but I also think a decent amount of it should go into our community, our schools, libraries, food bank, nonprofits. These are all places that are hurting and have been directly affected. Schools especially. We live in a rural area. Most people, there are kids that don't have computers or tablets or internet, and they couldn't do their schoolwork. They don't have that opportunity. It makes things a lot harder in a small rural community like ours. In the chamber, we're a 501c6, and so it's really difficult to find grant opportunities. I have scoured the internet. I have asked people constantly all year, if they see anything that the chamber qualifies for, please let me know. Because generally, grants for nonprofits are for 501c3s. We have been eligible for one grant so far this year, and I applied, and I will know Friday if we got it. It is COVID relief, but it can't be used on operational costs. We can't pay salaries with it. We can't pay bills with it. And we're struggling just to keep our doors open right now. Our biggest fundraiser of the year can't happen. Our biggest events of the year can't happen. And now with numbers rising, we probably are going to continue not to have in-person events for a while. And so we're suffering. Other nonprofits are suffering. You know, we work closely with both museums in town, with the Center for the Arts. These nonprofits also have a lot of elderly staff members, a lot of immunocompromised people. And these are places that really add value to our community, and we don't want to see them go. So I just ask that you guys rethink how this money is spent and the criteria that goes into it if you do some type of grants through a third party, and take into consideration not only the business community, but the rest of the community, food banks, schools, libraries, places like that, nonprofits. And I just want to stress to please understand the weight of this decision. Your decision can make or break our community. We don't want, to see any of our businesses close permanently. We want to set Globe up for success. We want to set Globe up for longevity. And this will have major lasting effects on all of our futures, not just the businesses, but our individual lives of the quality of life in this town. So just please understand the weight and please take into consideration everything that we've all said tonight. Thank you.
I just want to say
Thank you, Tina.
that as councilmen and council members that you should know who Tiana is. She is your direct part of connection to small businesses. And the chamber deserves a lot of support because you should be using the chamber as your connection to small businesses. So I think that this is a good thing that's happened because the council for a long time has not been connected to small businesses like they should. You guys should know every small business, every owner. Like the disconnect compared to other cities is disgraceful. And I think that as a community, we're a lot better than that, and that you guys don't even know how much of a community we are because you're not connected to us. So going forward, I hope to see that there's some kind of communication, something that you guys form together, specializing and specifically for small businesses outside of COVID, but continuing on so that our community can grow. Because our growth is stopping because there's no connection, there's no fluency. And it's very important that this community works on transparency and fluency. So I think this has been a big lesson for everyone that, and us as business people, we need to step up and say enough is enough. We know and we hear about all this other support that goes on in these other small towns provided by council members, and we don't see any of it. So going forward, I just hope that more of that is considered. And at the end of all of this, that we continue to stay connected and know what's going on within our community. That's it.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Go ahead, Paul.
Just a quick comment to Tiana's comments. Just so you know how to follow your local cities, we have scheduled meetings every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, and they're all at 6 o'clock. They've been on that same schedule, the second and fourth Tuesday, since I've been here for 5 years. In the past year, we've gone online, and so we're broadcasting this on YouTube. And this is a big step for any council to put cameras up and have it broadcast so we can get that larger transparency, that audience. We put the agendas out no later than Friday afternoon, and they can be found on the website. They can be found posted on the front board of City Hall and at the library, but traditionally the website is the place to find those. I think the radio, the Big John will read the agenda sometimes also. One of the things with the new website, we have a way you can sign up and get on a distribution list, and that way you can have them sent to you. So we're always trying to do more about how to get the word out. But we don't advertise any specific agenda, but it's always good to be watching those when they come out, and we're very careful about that.
Paul, Tiana has a question.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and what Tiana was saying is this is a special time, this is a pandemic, this impacted people, so we should have thought a little, done better to take those items that we think have an impact. But, and the problem we get into is if we start overly promoting one over the other, or think this is going to be interesting or not, then you get, oh, well, you promoted that one and not this one. But it's our first pandemic, and my comments are not in order to, I think your points are valid. I just wanted to use it for a quick commercial on how to follow a council meeting and when that's on there. But I still, there's some concerns about picking and choosing what agenda items we're going to promote and not, because we can be accused of favoritism. But in this case, it might have been a good idea. So thank you.
We were told at a council meeting, not this last one, but within the last few meetings, we were told that staff was going to reach out, that you would ask somebody or other how many businesses, and they responded on text, and then there was so many that were non-essential. I'm sorry, I can't remember the numbers.
I think 11 are non-essential.
A long time ago. But we were told staff was going to reach out.
Yeah,
to
when they're, and when
I'm
we.
all for the big red and white banners,
Right.
huge ones, the size of cars. Put them all over
Yeah.
the damn town. We need to.
And so when we have, like I say, when there are certain issues, when people are going to be directly impacted that we know we
But it was about this.
Yeah, and then the last one, now in the early meetings, I think that was a broader scope, and we had not contemplated that there would be a chance to distribute the money because of the gift clause. We felt boxed in and that it was not going to happen. And so that's why we didn't talk, we just couldn't meet the future. I wish it could have.
Okay, next.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
My name is Lisa
Lisa.
Brazil. I thank you guys for having this. I wasn't going to speak today. I was just going to come as an observer. Sitting here listening to everybody, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming out. On August 4th, I sent a text to Charlene going, Dave Cook told me we got $843,000 of CARES Act money. Where's it going? What are we doing with it? How many people in here has gone to the webpage of the United States Treasury's office and read what the CARES Act is? Can somebody want to pull it up? You want to pull it up? All right. So the CARES Act provides fast and direct economic assistance for American workers and families, small businesses, and preserves jobs for American industries. United States Treasury, what the CARES Act was. For months, I was a troublemaker in this community because I was fighting. Until Matt came to me and said, you no longer stand alone. You no longer stand alone. Charlene and I are no longer troublemakers because here's the businesses saying, you got to consider us. We're smart, we're talented, we're quick, we think on our feet. You got to think about us when this is happening because, and I will say this, and sorry, Chief, we need the police and we need the fire, I get that. But people don't come to this town because of the police and the fire. The tourist money, the money that comes here because the businesses in this community, we are the culture, we are the energy, we are the vibe. Without us, you have empty buildings, and you have a lot of them right now. So you have to support us. There's 2 bars open in town right now. We were closed for 6 months. Our hours are limited, our numbers are limited. Tracy doesn't even know if she's gonna open up the Huddle after January 1st. We still have bills. We have insurance bills. We have all sorts of bills. She has product rotting that she's just going to have to toss. All we ask, and when I started this fight for everybody. Because we are the community. And you are elected leaders, and we just ask you to do the right thing for the community. So that's all I have to say, and thank you. I feel vindicated today, though. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Paul.
Just a technical point, the information on the Treasury website doesn't apply to the money that we receive from the state.
Good evening. Chief. My name is Gary Robinson. I'm the fire chief for the city. I just wanted to take a minute and kind of echo what Chief Walters said. Our sole function within this community, outside of a little bit of code enforcement side of things, is to serve the citizens that live here. Our sole function is to provide for and care for and provide a service most of the time, at least for us, when people are in some form of crisis. We, and I recognize that you as business owners are essential to what we do. The revenue that we rely on to provide that service comes through you. There's a couple of things, and you know, I don't think it's, you know, I don't think it's been masked or hidden or anything like that. And believe me, I understand that a lot of the money being discussed here relates back to the purchase of a truck. A couple of things I want to clarify. Number one, this is not something that we saw CARES money and said, hey, we should do this. This is something we've been fighting for a long time. Number two, the truck, you know, the truck that we're looking at and that has been discussed and that we've been asking for about 4 years now, is a wildland urban interface truck. That is not, you know, that's not a single function truck. That's not a wildland truck. That truck is a truck that can be placed into frontline service in the event that our current pumper is unavailable. As Chief Walters said, we have our next inline pumper is approaching 20 years old. Our ladder truck is approaching 30 years old. If, you know, and I made when we went through the budget process, you know, the question was asked, well, what's your priority? To be honest, my priority is the replacement of a ladder truck. But the cost to do so is significant. The plan that I proposed and the plan that we put forward that led to where we're, you know, led to the discussion of the Type 3 is that truck, while it serves a purpose here and it can serve as a fully functional pumper for this community, it also has the potential to generate revenue. It's not that its sole function is to go out and generate revenue for the city. It is, you know, it's to serve and function here to provide a service. But it also has that potential. And it's very, very, very rare that you can say that of a government, you know, of a government vehicle, that it has the capacity to go out and generate revenue back to the municipality. The goal being behind that is to offset some of the cost to this community going forward when it comes to future apparatus purchases. And that's one of the things that I presented to the council. And the council is, I don't know how many presentations the council has heard regarding this. You know, it's something that, you know, we are in a position where, you know, our frontline truck, yes, it's a new truck, or fairly new. After that, you know, the reliability and of the others is, you know, when you start talking about 20 and 30 years old on a truck like that without significant refurbishments, without significant things, yeah, you know, we maintain them well and we work to maintain them well. But they also, you know, there's also, you know, the issue of when they do go down, it becomes difficult to find parts. It becomes difficult to keep them up. To the point where we have at times borrowed equipment from Tri-City Fire District to put in our stations to make sure that we have the apparatus needed to provide service to the community. And we've offered that same thing to them. It's not a, you know, it's not a challenge that we're facing alone. And we do recognize, you know, the needs of the business that we don't function without you. And, you know, I just, you know, we have to at some point realize that we have to have a plan going forward to help continue to make sure that the the tools are there to serve the community, and that we can continue to do what we do in a fashion that's to the best of our ability and to the best of what the budget of the city will allow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, one at a time. You have to come up to the mic.
Oh, okay.
Chief, was this fire truck in the budget prior to the city receiving COVID money?
Yeah.
And it was. So the truth being, even though you
Four
got,
budgets, we just kept saying no.
but you've already got money, and you moved the money because you spent it over here, but you still got the money in the city, so that the COVID money, the city could really buy the fire truck and not be involved with COVID, and spend the money on COVID.
Mickey,
The-
the wasn't in the budget.
What's that?
The type 3 wasn't in the budget until we got the COVID.
The type 3 was proposed as part of the
wish
budget.
list.
The type 3
Wish
has been in previous.
CIP for the last 4 years.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so we could still defer this to another wish list if that was necessary.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, no, it was. Thank you.
Matthew?
I had notes, but then my phone died, so we're gonna free wallet. So, I think the biggest thing that I keep hearing, so it's great, we all have ideas, we all have thoughts, we all have plans or what we want to do. There hasn't been a number thrown around yet. At the very first time this was brought up, it was 15,000, then it was 50, then Charlene said, how about 10%, then it turned to 84, and then I had heard it was up to 100, and now it's back up to 50. Now at the last council meeting, Paul, you said, we're going to start with 50, and then if you need more, then we'll look at it down the road. My question is, why can't we reverse it? So why can't we start with a third? You do the need, maybe you only spend $100,000. Then you have $200,000 left over to put towards stuff we need, like the fire truck, like the police vehicles. There's multiple ways of doing this. My issue and what we've talked to a few businesses about is, it's taken us this long to get to here. You want to do 50 and then, okay, come back to us when that's spent and you need more. Are we then 8 more weeks to get another 50,000? Like, why can't we start a little bit larger and then work down? Because I don't think, none of us want to take money away from the city, from the fire department, from the police department. We're just saying, let's prioritize, let's figure out what we can do best and what's the best way of spending it. So that's my question to you guys is the number 50? Because if that's it, then we're just sitting here for no reason at all, so.
And yeah, let me give you the full answer on that. Right now, there's a number that's been floated, and like I say, it's been gone back and forth. The problem that I keep laying out is a derivative of the gift clause. We have a formula, and then we have Arizona First is going to do a selection on the need, and so we don't know exactly how much money we're going to give out. We can't go and say we're going to give out 100,000 and equally distribute it, because that's not the way we're going to do this. We're going to draw a set of criteria. We're going to have a set of needs, and from there we'll develop a menu of people who've applied, and then see what we have to distribute based on that. Because we can't have a cutoff point. In order to avoid gift clause violation, we can't say, okay, we're going to take the first 100 people that come up or something like that. We can't have winners and losers. We have to have, if you're in a category and you qualify and then you have a ranking on your need, that's going to come up with a hard number, and then we'll do the math on that and come back and finish the process. So for me, I was pushing, my thought was the best way to handle this, put 50,000 that we know we have, move that, get that on the table. Start the process, do the application process, and then come back and then see where we're gonna put the rest of the money. Two things. I want council to see not only how much money, but the way it's going to be, kind of the breakdown on the distribution, because we may have to adjust that. And there's no way we can, if we go back and say, okay, we put X amount, more than that, it may be enough, it may not be enough. Why go ahead and move money around and pull it from this and pull it from that? You get a whiplash thing going on. You're gonna have to have 2 meetings anyway. I think the problem is fear from people that council won't come back to the table. And so we're worried about that they're just gonna say, okay, we only put 50 in there, we're not coming back. I think this council, through this process, is very well. If they say that we're gonna come back and we're gonna finish it off based on the need that we come up with, that's just, I think, financially and organizationally, it's a lot smarter to do it, to say, start the process, figure out the need, move the money, as opposed to move the money and then start the process and figure out the need and maybe get it wrong. So I'm just thinking that symbolically, it would be really nice to say, we're gonna throw X amount at it. But I'm trying to think realistically, let's start with getting the number before we come back. And why go through all this process of moving the money? We have to move it back. Who knows? I don't know where that's gonna go, but that's just how I'm thinking as a manager for the city is the best process to go, is get it going, figure out the amount, close the deal.
Okay, so I can only speak for myself as one individual, but I don't think 50,000 is even realistic. I think we need triple that, at least. And I realize I'm one individual with one but by golly, I'm going to state it, and that's what it is.
And I would hesitate, I would caution council on getting into throwing too many numbers. I think that out there, because I don't want council going back and forth with, because we do have a quorum here. But that is, I guarantee you the topic of the meeting on the 8th is where is that number going to be?
Yes,
Okay.
that just seems more complicated than going, I'm just going to throw out a random number. I know you guys can't agree or admit to anything. That seems more complicated than, here's 175,000, run the process. Okay, it's done. We filled all the grants that were eligible. You have $93,000 left. What would you like to do? Do you want to do another round of funding, or is there a way we can get it, you can get it back from local first? Because I know how the gift clause works. I know you have to be careful with it. I don't want you to get sued, obviously, because that affects us on our taxes. But it just seems like that's more complicated to keep having to come back. You only meet every 2 weeks, unless you can have a special council meeting to do it. And then you're just opening it up for more and more discussion, and we're going to start pushing into February, March, and some of these businesses aren't going to survive that long. Like, if they're not first round funded, you might lose 6 or 7 applicants because they just closed. They're like, I can't do it. I didn't make it through the first round. I can't wait 4, 5, 6, 2, 3 more weeks. That's my biggest concern. And I'm with McSpadden and some of the businesses. I don't want a penny. I don't need a penny. I was very fortunate that I was essential and I made it through, not unscathed, but not needing. But there's businesses out here that are 3 months from closing, 6 months from closing, 30 days from closing, that are wondering where the next income is going to come from. And I just think it needs to be a more logical than, let's do a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then we'll see what happens. Because we're going to have the same issue where we start eating into other departments' budgets. And as far as, I think the other issue we're figuring out too is, we should be more involved as business owners. You know, it's important, if we're going to show up now for this, we should show up when the fire department needs a fire truck. We should be in the room and say, no, city, figure out how to pay for it. Police department needs police vehicles. City, figure out a way to pay for it. It does come off unfair that now we're saying, okay, you have all this money, forget what you currently need, because we all know they need that stuff, but there needs to be more involvement between all of us in it, because none of us want to steal from the other departments. I mean, Besh is in there, Public Works is in there, there's other places that are getting money that we all enjoy, but the point is it has come off very much, it was pre-decided, this is what we're doing, and we're barely giving you the minimum, because the budget that was put out 2 weeks ago for the last meeting, you pulled $40,000 from Public Works, and you pulled $2,500 from Besh, I think the restaurant or the restroom remodel, and some other small totals. So it seems like you're just scrambling to find it instead of let's take a hard look at it. And I could be wrong. I'm just saying from the documents, that's how it came off to some of us is it doesn't seem they're actually considering more than 50.
Yeah.
So.
And I think this is we're talking about the question that council's going to have to struggle with and find an answer on the 10th, or the 8th, I'm sorry. But I would tell you that there's not much of a lag because the meeting schedule, we meet every 2 weeks. If we put X amount of dollars down to start the process, we get the website built, we get everything put in place, we do the pre-announcement, we open, we close, and at that point, we'll go back to council and finish off because we'll know the amount. So, and this council is really good about doing special meetings. We're not shy about if we need to meet, they will meet. And so I wouldn't worry so much about the timing, but the six, my version of start low and then add, and your version of start high and then see where we fall out. That's a council decision, I think.
Okay.
And they're listening, I can tell.
Yeah. And the other point, I do think communication is a huge issue, but I think what you also have to remember is everybody in this room voted for all you guys because we trusted you to do what we thought you were going to do. That's the issue you're having, is it seems like things were swept under the table, we weren't considered, people weren't considered. I know top priority is public safety, I understand that, it should be. We don't need to have our whole community shut down because we let things get out of hand. And it is partially our fault for not paying attention as fully as we should, but there needs to be better transparency, more communication. Like, I don't get the agenda from the city. I'm not on an email list. I don't do any of that. I get the agenda from Al, because Al posted it on his Facebook page, and I see his Facebook page. So it's a great way of communicating for me, but there's other ways, and there's people that don't do Facebook that need to be able and have a way of being reached out to and being more involved.
And Matt, I want to take exception just to one thing you said. When you say swept under the rug, it implies that we took action to low profile it or not get the word out. I think we're guilty of not putting a spotlight on it and say, hey, look at this, we're doing this, this might infect. I take Tiana's terms there, but I don't think we did anything to put this under the rug, to hide it from the public. This city, if anything, very, very transparent, and no action was taken to deceive or not inform people. Now, did we not go above and beyond? Yes, but to put it under the carpet, I disagree with that characterization, just respectfully.
And you probably can't answer this, which is fine. If those 5 businesses hadn't shown up 4 weeks ago, would you not have voted on this and settled it? Was that not what was on the agenda to vote for? Yeah. Where the money was going, based on the criteria you guys had set, was that not the case?
Well,
did the fact that the 5 businesses show up and say something waiver the council from saying, okay, we need to take a look at this harder? That's where it's coming off as swept. I don't mean you did anything illegal. Like, I don't think you're trying to steal tax dollars. I don't think you're trying to hide things from us. There wasn't, to what you said, there was no communication until 5 people showed up and brought it to your attention that this all changed. Because it was an action item. Am I wrong? Or?
No, and it was put on the agenda because of those 5 people, because it was getting out. This is how the process works. We're public, and people find out, and they get involved, and they have an interest, and they have a different view than the council, and then they come forward, and we do this. And I'm just talking more about the 2 meetings in June and the July and that time period. There was no effort. We passed our budget. We spent our AZ CARES money. We're going forward, and then I think events. The number 1 event is, raise your hand who thought it'd be over in July. That would be me. And then it kept going and going, and then we saw other cities coming with additional ways to get around that gift clause. We saw cities having success in doing that, not getting sued, and then that filtered back up to this community, rightfully so. And you said, hey, we see what we're doing here. We see what doing other cities. Why are we not considered that? And we're like, we have it, so now we're considering it. But I think it's just a nature of this crazy time that we're in, you know, the year 2020, more so than anything else. But the process has worked. We're here now, and we're listening. This council's listening very closely, and I believe that they're going to take action. So looking forward, I think we're in a good place, and you know, we got here, we're here now, and bless those people who were tooting the horns and bringing this to our attention.
No, I mean, you guys deserve a pat on the back, because you could have just passed it and said, this is what we feel is best, and it would have just gone past. I mean, you don't have to listen to us. So you deserve all the respect and appreciation for saying, hey, we might have kind of messed up, and we should listen, and we should come to them. I'm just saying, we need to not let this happen again. We can't, the business community needs to be more involved, the citizens need to be more involved, but it also has to be, like you just said, you found back in June and July that other cities were doing it other way. Why wasn't there a meeting then? Why wasn't it said, hey, this is originally how we budgeted to do it. We've seen other communities do this successfully. Why don't we have some type of town hall? And I know there was lockdowns and stuff going on back then. Why did it wait until business just showed up? And I could be wrong. This is what it looks like on the outside to us. I would love to be proved wrong. And you said, oh, well, we've been talking about it since June. We just didn't figure out how to do it. But that's where the issue is coming from.
Yeah, budget-wise, I'm watching the budget, we're watching the income. We're dealing with so many things going on. It's been a busy time, and so I can offer no excuses why we weren't proactive to think, hey, these other cities are doing it, why should we do it now? I can't tell you why that didn't click in at that point, but it's here now, and we're talking about that. And I was going to say, we always learn from the past. We always take every experience, goes into the memory banks, and we will learn from this. We'll learn a couple of lessons from this whole episode of the pandemic on the big picture, and on this item in the smaller picture. And that's human nature, and that's a good thing about human nature is you know, this. What's going to keep this from happening again is, like, you know, we've seen there's a dynamic here that didn't register, at least in my mind as city manager, that is now a dynamic that will be planted in my brain and will be, my job is to advise council, and I'll do a better job of advising council to make sure that we do get ahead of the bus and don't get, you know, with a situation like this. So
thank you. I appreciate you guys being here.
Matt, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
You have a question for me?
It does matter that you show up. It does matter that you speak up. I mean, we represent you. But if we don't know what you're thinking, we don't know what you're doing, how the hell are we supposed to represent you? We get up there and we do the best we can. I own a business. She owns a business. He owns a business. I employ people. I didn't apply for assistance because I was an essential business just like Matt. I didn't have to shut down. And I could have applied. Everybody said apply. I'm like, but I'm hurting a little bit, but not enough to apply. I don't think I should take the money. Now, maybe that's something that we should do is for those businesses that could apply but don't need it, please don't. Leave that money for the people that do need it so that we'll have more to give to them. And I think that we need to do something to figure out something with the contractors. I think if you actually work under a licensed business, you're just a subcontractor under that licensed business. That's stuff that we can discuss and try to figure out. And so, but we wouldn't know that if you didn't come here. I wouldn't have thought about an independent contractor.
No.
So it matters that you show up. It matters that you participate.
If you want to, so people at home can hear. Okay.
Come on up, Bruce. Let's say what you're saying. I think the issue. Sorry. I think the biggest issue we've met, we've talked, this, like Erica said, most of us have put this together by reaching out to each other. You guys did create a Facebook event, which was very helpful, but you also moved this meeting 3 times, which is hard for business owners. One day is hard. I get it's around holidays. I get things came up, but it's just, overall, we need better communication between everybody, and we just need, I think there's a lot of the business owners that feel like we weren't thought of at all. We were just an afterthought. And I think that's the hardest thing. That's probably not right. I'm sure you guys don't feel that way because, like Fernando said, 3 of you are business owners. So you know how it goes. But I think we need to have a cultural or a shift between how this council reacts with the city and how the city reacts to the council. Because we need to be more involved. This is our fault for not finding out sooner, for not coming in June and demanding money then. I mean, we did kind of drop the ball there, but there's blame on both sides. And I just hope this is a point for change and that we're not going to go backwards after this. So I'll let everybody else go.
And Matt, just real quick, the reason the meeting was moved 3 times was just the holidays and trying to get a quality meeting. I think it's good this happened tonight. We have a foundation because we have the criteria that we're talking about, and we got 40 people plus here. We got 40 people online. I think I know the frustration with moving the time and location, but I think it turned out to be a better meeting and gave council better feedback. And that was my goal. So, but I do apologize for the frustration with the moving of the times and location.
If I could just talk about that one thing. When you talk about transparency, and again, I've had really good experiences with council, so I would have nothing except for the lesson is on the communication is you move the meeting, but you didn't move on the agenda when the decision was being made. And that's where it doesn't feel good. That's where it feels like things are happening behind our knowledge. If you had to move a meeting to get our feedback, then it automatically should have been moved on the agenda. And that's the hard part. And that's where you like, what is going on? Why are we even having a town council, a town hall meeting if they're already going to make a decision before? So as we go forward, that's where I need your thoughts to keep going. If we can't talk to them, we need to change when we make the decision.
So we had a meeting 2 weeks earlier, and we had talked about it then. And then we had it scheduled for the next meeting. I think it was helpful just to have that discussion. But that, and you didn't know, but I did know that was not going to be the last time that we were going to talk about it. And I think that's the disconnect, is just understanding the process, because I'm one talking about having to come back to another meeting to finish off the process. So if it had been the last time the item would have been coming to council, I would have said, yeah, let's hold off and do this, because it would be moot. But I knew it wasn't going to be moot. But that, shame on me, that's my bad communication. Yeah. And everybody keeps trying to say, can you simplify this? And I wish I could, but I'm moving a lot of pieces around here trying to get it. But it worked out, and it's a great meeting. Thank you.
Yes. Cindy, you have another comment?
Yes, thank you. I think we kind of get the gist of this and the frustration and all that, so I'm going to pass on all that. I do agree on the one point, being self-employed since I was 23, it's easier to start high and put your money back in the bank that you don't utilize. So please bear that in mind. Don't go low, start high. You might find you have a lot of leftover revenue. But my actual question was perhaps silly, and it's a layman's question. What's the difference in cost between the Type 3 fire truck and a, forgive the ignorance, but a regular pump fire truck that our fire department needs? Is there a huge cost?
I don't want to not give it justice, so the fire chief's coming. So get your notepad out, you're going to get it. And Gary, we do have a Type 6. What year is our Type 6?
Our Type 6 is a 2003.
Okay, so the difference is in the trucks.
Yeah, so differences in a truck, typically our main truck we use right now that you see on the road most of the time is what's called a Type 1 pumper. That, a typical cost for a type 1 pumper is somewhere between just under $500,000 to about $750,000. The main component of that being in the chassis, the custom chassis, and some of that costs. As far as the type 3 goes, that cost is usually somewhere in the neighborhood of $340,000 to $350,000 up to about $450,000, depending on how it's configured and stuff. Usually because it's a commercial chassis, it's a more ready, you know, it's not a custom built chassis and stuff like that. So those are that's kind of the cost breakdown with that, and hopefully that answers.
Councilman Rios, you have a question or comment?
Good evening.
Hold on, Ian. Freddie's going to come up, I think.
Freddie Rios, Councilman, City of Globe. So, you know, I'm hearing a lot of great conversation, a lot of good discussion. And, you know, the intent here, I believe, from Vice Mayor and Councilwoman Giles was to get some feedback on what kind of criteria that would fit your needs. And I feel like we've kind of strayed away from that, and we're trying to discuss budgetary items and figure out how much money, where the money should come from, those kinds of things. Those are going to be challenges that the council's going to have for sure. But I really got to say that I have a strong sense that this council is on board with helping the business community. And it's kind of discouraging to me to hear that, you know, we lack in transparency, we've lacked, and we're sweeping, and we're kind of in a position where we're not being truthful. And I have to say that's the furthest from, that cannot be true. You know, we have discussions all the time about this. What are we going to do? What can we do? In the last council meeting I mentioned, you know, we don't have bottomless pockets. You know, we have 7,000 plus residents that we are responsible for, including the business community. So I just want to make that understood, that although we have goals and we have opportunities, we as a council, and a comment was made, yeah, we were elected, but we're elected to represent the entire community, not only exclusive certain parts of the community. And COVID has put a false sense of what normalcy is anymore. And we're working through that. We're all trying to navigate through that. But I just want you to know that this council is supportive of the business community. And we're trying to find ways. And we need your help to help us find those ways. And so I just wanted to say that, you know, for me, as a member of the community, I would like to hear your guidance on what criteria we really need to look at to be able to distribute whatever funds we can come up with in a fair, equitable way. You know, our departments are essential to all of us, and your quality of life as well as mine. We've talked about trucks, we've talked about police vehicles. Those have been on the table for years, before COVID, way before COVID. And so just know that I just feel like the conversation is starting to shift away from what we're here to do and what we're trying to accomplish, which is give us feedback on what criteria you would like to see to help us get to a point where we can distribute funds. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferry.
And Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes.
And to that point, I'd like to recap what I've written down, what I've heard so far on the areas of the criteria. Okay. And I know there were comments about the brick and mortar and whether that should be expanded, I think, to home businesses. There were comments about the seasonal businesses and the starting date. There were comments about the 10 employees or less, and whether that's 10 by number or by FTE. There are comments definitely about independent contractors. I think that's a big one. I also would like to share with everybody a couple things that we aren't requiring that I think that is really a good thing for this program. And I hate to talk about what we're not doing, but you don't have to bring a bunch of accountant records. You don't have to bring receipts to get this money, tax returns or anything like that. There's no strings to the money. If you qualify this money, we're assuming you've had plenty of expenses that are qualifying expenses, so there's no validating on that. And we're not disqualifying you if you've collected other funds, if you've gotten the loans or the grants or the gifts or any other federal money, which a lot of programs have been doing. We're not, discounting that. So those are some of the good things about that. But I guess my question is to anybody is, those 4 things that I mentioned on the criteria is what I think we're going to relook at and have that discussion when we get back on the 8th. And if there's any more that I missed, let us know now so we can put that on the list.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for spending so much time on this. So my wife and I just recently purchased a triplex in downtown Globe, so we're getting our start here in real estate here locally. And one thing that I just want to commend the small business community on is just your passion tonight. That really, I like that. I like that fire in the belly that you have. And I love the agility that the city council has too. I know that you folks are willing to get together and meet at a moment's notice, and whatnot, to hear what everyone has to say. And one respectful suggestion is there is a municipality, I just typed it in my little Google search, but starting a small business advisory board. I think something like that would go a really long ways in terms of being able to keep your pulse on the on the various issues. And I know, Paul, as you were mentioning, there are a lot of new kind of criteria that have come up. I think that there are highly motivated business owners from a lot of key industries that hold a lot of respect here in the community that would be able to, I think, shed light. I know that we have, recently I joined the City Planning and Zoning Committee, and a lot of us have our background in various businesses, or real estate, and so we put a lot of those skills and that thought process to work on the recommendations, and I know that you take those recommendations to heart. So just as a respectful suggestion is, a small business advisory board, I think, would be great to look at those situations where you do have a lot of those 1099 employees are all independent contractors. I know that it's a very kind of recent trend that's coming across our country, and people don't have benefits like they used to. They don't have that steady employment like they used to. So it just creates just a lot of opportunities for adaptation. And I think a small business advisory board would go a long ways. And I know that they would show up to that meeting, whoever if they applied with City Council like they had to do with the Planning and Zoning Commission. They could apply and then be approved by City Council. And I know that they would show up to those meetings and take things to heart. So that was one suggestion that I had. And I think that, I know that we hired a consultant, the gentleman, Dana, with the Planning and Zoning Committee, so he brings a lot of his expertise, such as you do, Paul, with your administrative and managerial skills. I would imagine there would be some type of consultant out there that would be able to help keep an eye on behalf of, small businesses. I know it's very hard for everyone to sit down and say, all right, well, I had a long day's worth of work. I have kids and crying in the background. Now I'm going to sit down and listen to an hour and 45-minute city council meeting on YouTube. It's just not going to happen. So I would think something where you do have like some type of consultant would be, I think, really helpful in terms of, just keeping the gears flowing. So those are just some suggestions, but thank you all for your dedication. And, I know all of you are respected business owners and you're working hard, and it's hard managing your own business, your own life, and then you're coming in doing the best you can. And that board, I think, would help delegate and just kind of maybe take some of that pressure off of your plate as well, just as a thought. But thank you.
Great idea, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. I think that the bigger picture is we're always striving for transparency. We're always striving for better communication with our partners. I know that there are a couple ways to go about that, and we do have the EDC and the chamber that I think it's hard to communicate better when everybody's got masks on and everybody's trying to stay away from everybody, and so it's kind of counterproductive at this point. But we just have to doubly try harder to do that, and I don't know technically the best method to do better communication, but I think it's something that's definitely on the radar to just keep that up. We have an economic development department. I think we have counsel on the 5 bed tax organizations and the nonprofit bed tax organizations that are distributed the bed tax money, and we have a representative from council on that, and that includes both EDC and the chamber, along with the museum, the Center for the Arts Downtown Association, but we can always do better.
Okay. Charlene has a comment.
I just have one comment.
For Ian?
Yeah, for Ian, you're spot on, because I have to tell you, I have been getting, and I've got them since 5/14. I have gotten, since May the 14th, I have gotten 107 texts and messages from a business owner, and they know who they are. From 6/10, I've gotten, from June the 10th, I've gotten probably 36 from another single business owner. People, they have been talking about this. They are worried about this, and we need to be listening to them. And the small business group, that's perfect. That is the perfect solution to, we all work full time. Some of us work 2 jobs, some of it, and then we do all this. There's only so many hours in the day. That is such a perfect solution.
I like it.
Great idea.
Sarah, do you have another comment? We're going to just wrap this up. I'm sorry?
At the last meeting, the woman who spoke from Arizona, I think it was Arizona First, I think the whole point of hiring them as an independent contractor is that they're a vetted group that has experience, they understand the criteria, they understand how to handle it. We don't have to get wrapped up in the semantics of it, we don't have to get wrapped up in the particulars of it, you just have to make a commitment to saying you want to get behind for X amount of money and let them do their job. You engage them. To my understanding, they take 5% of the funds that you decide to set aside to help the business community, and they hash out the details. That's their responsibility. People don't expect that you wear all of these hats and know every answer. It's not so much that one has to have every answer, but one should know where to go to get them. I think it's obviously, Paul, you yourself mentioned this woman. She presented at this meeting. Other communities have used her. It seems like a pretty straightforward thing. Commit to an amount of money, let them come in, let them do their job. It's not their first rodeo. I have no doubt that they'll handle it professionally, and hopefully we can move forward effectively and efficiently and get the results that we need.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, sir.
And yet, local first, like I say, the whole concept of avoiding the gift clause issues is we're doing exactly what other people have done and not gotten sued, and so we figure that's safe. We do trust their sense of neutrality, their judgment, and that's why we're looking at using them. I think it's more than just pass through. It's a process of highlighting that. The only thing I just want to clarify is we can't say distribute X amount of dollars. We say just establish a need and then let us look at what that need is, and we have to fund that need just so we make sure that we cover everybody who applies. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mayor, do you have? Shelley. Oh, Shelley. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I do have a couple of comments that came through on text, and I wanted to make sure that they were read into the meeting. My first comment is from Tracy Quick, and she wants the meeting to know that she's been closed since March the 26th, 2020, 8+ months with no end in sight. Tracy also suggested that we use a wireless mic for the members of the audience that did not come up to the podium. She said it was a great meeting, and she's very pleased by the community, and she thanks council and staff for their part, Danny as well. Shout out to Danny. Let's see. I have a comment from Tony Deanda Solberg, and she suggests that council think about purchasing Everbridge or a mass communication system to inform the public of these types of issues and other events. And then my third and final comment is from Elizabeth Casillas Mabbitt, and she is the owner of Envious Bodywork, and she's speaking as a licensed massage therapist. She has a business license, and her question is, why are you putting a limit on businesses that qualify for money to have 10 or more, I'm thinking she means less, employees under them? Herself and Leslie Petty, owner of the Serenity Room, do not have employees, but they do everything themselves. So this is, she's wanting a fair process for employees like herself and Leslie, business owners that do not have employees, not able to qualify for the money. They still have a lot of clients that haven't come back because they're not comfortable going out in public, even though we take all precautions protecting our clients. Our clients that have come back thank us for doing that, so they still feel safe to get a service that is going to help them with stress. And that's from Liz. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Shelley. I think that's about it, right? Do you have any other closing comments, Paul?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming down here and taking the time to participate. Local government is the government that's closest to the people, and we're showing that here tonight. And we have 6 out of 7 of our council members. I know that the other council member could not be here, had something that totally kept him from being here, but I'm sure he's going to watch and see the tape. And so you're definitely being heard, you're being listened to, and this is how the process should work, and I think it's working very well. So thank you all.
Thank you. I want to thank you all as well. I appreciate everybody's attendance, and I look forward to working with you. Do you have any closing comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Mayor, do you have any?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me on this mic?
Yeah.
I'm a note taker, so I got a lot of notes, and hope I keep them together here anyway. First, I want to make a comment that you need to understand that all council understands and cares and knows what the small business do in our community. We have business people within our council, so we understand how important you are to our community. All 7 of us do. We don't know how long this virus is going to last. I mean, we're looking at maybe another wave coming up. And there was a couple of comments made about how, and being in a hurry, we've already satisfied the status of this CARES Act. We spent that money. The city put in for $1.1 million in salaries to police and fire. We only received $840,000. So that money is already spent. The last evaluation or not evaluation, but the last part of that goes at the end of December, but that money is spent, so we've satisfied that. That money is sitting in the general fund now. So that's where we talk about complying with the law, complying with the rules and the gift clause. That's what we need to really be concerned about. So being in a hurry doesn't mean we have to spend it by the end of 2020. But we need to find out what's going to be a good time frame for people to get the help now, especially in these times with this going on. Also, with this money, we heard the hard cost of $250,000. That's money that we've been spending on trying to upgrade some of our facilities, because we also are business people. We got to provide those services for all of you, for all our residents. And we continue to provide that without shutting down any services. Well, we did bash in the library, but the essential services like sewer, garbage, fire, police, we continued those services, and we didn't lay off any employees. So those costs continue, so that money will continue to go down to decrease of the money we have left from that CARES Act. Because we still have people that are positive within our city. We were hit with positive cases in the beginning. I don't know what our number is now. I don't know if we can disclose that. Positive cases within our city at this point.
Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't like to reveal that. I hate to bring those up. We about 10%.
Okay, that's okay. But we still have those, so those are ongoing costs that we're going to be accumulating with sick leave, with MLA, with overtime to cover these shifts, especially in public safety where we cannot take days off. We got to be there for everybody. The Chief Walters hit it on the head. You know, we did nothing, and I heard the same thing. I think Councilman Rio said the same thing about transparency and sweeping under the carpet. We have done none of that. You know, it kind of hurts to hear those comments, because that is not what we have done as a council. We do care. There's a lot of things decisions that we make on a regular basis. But how do we strike that balance, like Chief Walter said, that there is, how do we strike the balance so we can give back to the community? And how much of that money is actually there when we talk about numbers? And yeah, we need to look at it, and I think 50,000 was set out there, but does that mean 50? Does that mean more? That's something we can't discuss here. That's something that we'll make a decision in the future. When we talk about where we're going to get the money, we talk about public safety, we talk about police, and we talked about broken down police cars not getting to the scene. We talk about a downtown area that's very vital to our future, that's vital to our tourists, but a very old downtown community that has the potential for major disaster, and we've seen it in 2005 when we burned that four-story motel down in our theater. In the 30 years that I served with Global Fire Department, we burned 9 buildings. There was 9 building fires downtown, and we lost 3 of them. We were able to save 6 of them. But you got to have the equipment to be able to do that. You got to be able to get people get upset because you go into buildings and have to do fire inspections or building inspections and stuff. But you got to identify those fire code violations before a building burns down. We saw what happened in Miami last year. They lost 4 buildings. That's the type of construction we have within our city. We have buildings that are right next to each other. If we allow fire code violations to continue, we have the potential to lose a whole block, which I thought we were that night in 2005. So those are the decisions we need to make. You know, can we put them off? Yeah, we can put them off. But we got a police department that we had a failing police department for many, many years. In these last 2 years, how much crime have we've heard on the radio? All the break-ins in homes. Do we hear that? Downtown businesses? Do we hear all the drug busts that are taking place? So we have invested in our police department, and we need to continue to invest in our police department. The same with with fire department. We need to look at that. Yes, maybe we put it off for a while, but in the end, we're still going to have to spend your taxpayers' money to do it, to get it done. And public works. You know, I was a chief for 18 years, and in 2008, when it hit in 2008, for every year we had to do a budget, and every year we were told 10%, cut 10% off your budget every year. You know how tough that is? and we weren't generating no revenue. We weren't bringing no revenue up. And back then, we had 130 to 140 employees. Now we're down to less than 100 employees. So I commend our staff that works here, because every one of them has an important job and an important part providing services for our community. They are very important, every one of them, no matter what position they're in. And before COVID hit, these last couple of years, we have seen that revenue coming up because we have worked hard on economic development, on tourism. We have seen that 1% to 2% increase every year, where we're not saying to a department cut 10%. We're saying we're able to add stuff. But this COVID has really taken a hit on all of us, and especially as a city, it really has. So we heard a lot of good ideas today, a lot of stuff, and this is stuff that we need to take back, and Paul has documented it, and hopefully we can change some of the requirements to be qualified for it. But also we got to figure out, and we got to take a hard look where we're going to take that money from, and prioritize, like some of you have said. But you are important to what we do. We can't change the past. We thought we were doing the right thing. We put the money where we thought it was recommended by our staff where it needs to be. But we can't change the past, but we can change the future. And that's where we start now. We can't continue to dwell on the past and what we've done. Get involved. Fernando said it. Get involved. We don't see very many people at our council meetings. It's not just when it affects you directly. It should be every part of what goes on with our city, because we have a wonderful city. We have a great city. And we have a lot of potential, and we hope that we can just get through this. If we do have another way, we can help each other out, and that we can build our city into a greater place. So I want to thank you also for coming, and I want to thank the Vice Mayor and Councilman Giles for putting this on. It was very informative, and we do hear you. We do hear those voices, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think with that, we can go ahead and close our meeting, our town hall. So thanks again for speaking up, everybody, and thank you for coming.